Hello, chat. Hello. Welcome back. Welcome back to another Ninja Gato show. Today, we have a very important guest, a awesome mental health professional, and that is Jackie's Advice. Jackie.
Hello. Hi. Hello. Hello. Hi. Hello. I'm Jackie. I am here.
Hello.
I'm present.
You are present, and you look fabulous, by the way. You look fabulous, by the way.
Oh,
Let me
thank you. Thank you.
move over here so we can see chat and you can see me. So, are you excited to be here? Are you excited for this interview?
Very excited. I mean, I started this whole shindig with the purpose of talking about mental health and like talking more about like how we should talk more about it. So, this is it.
This is it.
This
This
is
is it. It's gone mainstream. It's all over Twitch now.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the first thing I usually do is I shout out the guest and then I pin your channel after the shout out. But I'm excited about this because if you have not experienced my shout out module or my overlay, it's going to play a random clip from your channel. And you're going to have to explain and give us more context of what we're looking at. So if you have my Twitch channel open and ready, you're going to have to explain. So here we go. Let's see what we get.
All right. Okay. Oh, you okay? Do you need help? Here, let me. There you go. You're free. No, don't.
It looks like you rescued a goat or a deer, and I think that was Dragon Dogma. And then it went right back to being stuck on the wall.
I'm glad that clip ended when it did, because yes, what ended up happening is that I rescued it and nothing untoward happened to the deer afterwards. I was just doing a very kindly deed in Dragon's Dogma, and as my viewers here can attest, nothing bad really happened after that. It was just a very kind encounter in Dragon's Dogma 2. Yes.
Okay, so Hairlish Flora's statement of pretty sure she threw it off the cliff after. Is that just slander?
I mean, throwing has strong connotations. Some could say that I definitely picked it up and set it somewhere else for sure. Yes.
Alright, so I'm gonna type follow Jackie.
I did get experience from it, but it was because the game was rewarding me for putting it in a safe spot.
It died ripped here. This is why I love my shout out module. It just brings the most interesting moments to stream. There we go. They put the deer on a split roast after. I mean, venison is delicious. Venison's delicious. So.
Can't confirm or deny that.
All right. And then the second thing we usually do is we always open the interview with the lore behind the name. How did you come up with the name for your channel, Jackie's Advice?
It's actually kind of interesting. So, at first, as you can see, I started with Jackie Draws. That was my first nickname ever when I started doing like little comics online. I always enjoyed doing art. I always enjoyed drawing stuff, and I did like a bunch of like silly little comics for games I used to play. That turned into Jackie Comics as I started thinking about, oh wait, I can actually have like branding and stuff, and I made Jackie Comics into a thing, which turned into a website, and I started putting like little comics for a bunch of games I used to play. And then some friends decided that like I had a good voice and I had a good message. I should try this Twitch thing. And we started streaming under the name Jackie Comics for a while. But it wasn't until after I got affiliate that I started thinking about it, and I started thinking like, I don't do comics when I'm streaming, right? I'm trying to help people. I'm trying to like give advice as best I can. I'm trying to give comfort where I can. And I'm like, Jackie Comics, that name feels almost like a lie, like I'm lying to my viewers because they're coming here looking for comics and then they just get therapy instead. So we ended
Oh.
up changing from Jackie Comics to Jackie's Advice. Flora and Bubble Beams helped me pick out a name. There were plenty of names in the cutting room floor. There was Jackie's Question Corner, Jackie Advises, and Jackie's Advice sounded the one that sounded the most
Mm.
easy to say.
Wasn't uh Glibby Diddy Dibby one of the options? Glibby Dibby?
Another bit of channel lore. First games we streamed was a game called Voices of the Void, which is a game where you're in the woods by yourself trying to maintain a base, and you're getting signals from outer space which you're supposed to kind of like put in a tape and send it to researchers. And there's a lot of aliens that we ended up calling Glibby Dibby, because Glibby Dibby alien. And Glibby Dibby has since become a main staple of my channel. Despite my best efforts to the contrary, Glibby Dibby has become, as you can see, a mainstay of the of the Jackie's Advice experience.
Nice. Nice. Okay. Okay. Glibby Dibby. That's cool. While we're on the topic of lore, and I see models by
Mm-hmm.
the Hellish Flora. Can you tell us about this model and the inspiration, how it came together, and
Mm-hmm.
how it worked between you and the Hellish Flora?
So what ended up happening is that I don't do a lot of Twitch. I never really have done a lot of Twitch. I've always been more of a consumer of edited content.
Mm-hmm.
Even people who I knew did Twitch, I usually watch their cut down versions of stuff. And my favorite streamers are usually, it comes to mind people like Germa and Varg Skeletor, um, Sharborg. There are streamers, Tomato. There are streamers that don't have any like visual aspect to them, right? It's mostly just a game and them talking. That's basically what they have. They don't have anything extra. And for me, that's always been like what I wanted when it came to streaming. I'm like, I don't want people to come here and look at my character and be like, oh, I'm talking to a character. I'm like, you're here for the content that is being generated. Um, but the more I started streaming, the more people were like, oh, when are you getting a VTuber? When you're getting a VTuber? So I whip up this very simple, like little bat character talking. The bat design was something I made on a whim on an Inktober challenge back in like 2020, I think, or 2021. And I was like, oh, this is a cutesy enough character. Most people that have VTubers have cutesy characters. So I made this cute little bat that just went like bop 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 bop, like super simple. Had like 1 frame of animation for talking, 1 frame of animation for blinking. And then Flora, who's been immense help in setting up the channel and moderate and keep moving it forward. She was like, you need like a proper PNG model. And I was like, we do, but those are like really expensive, really difficult to make. And like neither of us actually know how to make a PNG tuber model. So Flora, with the willpower of an actual archangel, learned how to make PNG tubers in like about a week and made like 4 PNG tubers and set them all up.
Oh,
She was
nice.
like, here, I made you a PNG tuber. It's based on your character. I hope you like it. And that's what we've been rocking. She made like several outfits for it, and it's been amazing. I have nothing but amazing things to say. She recently got into VGen, which I mean, it goes to show like just how amazing of an artist that Flora is. That she was like, I know nothing about how to make PNG tubers, to making PNG tubers, to making PNG tubers that are so good that she got into VGen in about like the span of a month.
Damn. That's pretty cool. So you had a community member take a concept of yours and bring it to life as a VTuber. That is the Hellish
Hmm.
Flora. That's awesome. I see. I mean, Laura's with us in the chat today, so everyone, let's give easy claps to the Hellish
Easy
Flora.
claps for Flora.
Easy claps. Let's get them going. That's pretty cool. I mean, I'm also typing easy clap. There we go. I myself
Hmm.
don't have artistic skill. So I ended up getting a 3D asset from the Unreal Marketplace and then finding a modeler that actually knew how to put the facial capture onto my cat. And that's how my cat was born.
Mm.
So, um, yeah, that's very cool. Very cool. Um, all right. So, you became a professional streamer, and every professional streamer has a hardware and software setup. Let's start with your hardware setup. What is the hardware that is required to make a Jackie Comics or Jackie's Advice stream happen?
A Jackie's advice stream is very bare bones. Really, all I need is something on the screen and a microphone, and that's pretty much it. Because on my streams, usually what I'm doing is just taking people's questions and answering them as best I can. So, even though I can talk more about the hardware aspect, I have a quadcast microphone. My computer has a 3060, just a normal 3060 with an Ryzen. No, it has an Intel i7.
Mm-hmm.
I think 11th generation, if I'm not mistaken, and like 60 gigs of RAM. But that's really not important because I really don't use most of it when I'm streaming. Because like we're usually streaming like silly little games or like old retro games. Like we're streaming Daggerfall or RimWorld or like whatever, kind of pops in my brain that I'm thinking like that would be an interesting thing to stream. So mostly, yeah, like the hardware necessary is pretty minimal to the point where like I've talked about and thought about like I can stream from my laptop really if I needed to. I really just need a microphone and for people to show up with questions and this sort of stuff.
Mm, interesting. So they're saying you run everything on a potato, but I've seen you play like Elden Ring.
Yeah. Yeah, we play Elden Ring. More usually when we play Elden Ring though is more as a collab effort.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because I was playing with the Clavia, who's amazing guy by the way. But Clay has also been on the same boat of like if we want to do a collab stream where we just watch videos together, or we just do like Minesweeper together, keep it down. And at the end of the day, that's kind of like more to the point. Like even when we're playing Elden Ring, we're mostly using the gameplay as background footage for us to talk about our experiences and what we lived in. And at that point, it's like the game is mostly secondary. It's there's just something like visually interesting for people to kind of like have their eyes on while we're talking about therapy and stuff. But yeah, we played Dark Tide on community nights sometimes as well. But like mostly it was just like yeah, like whatever. Essentially, if my computer exploded tomorrow, the streams would still be going. Like I'd still be able to stream, and nobody would notice anything. I don't think because I'd just be streaming some random old retro game like I usually do.
I gotcha. Okay, so you have a older PC, but it's still able to run Elden Ring. Okay. And then a really good
Hmm.
microphone. Um, I'm assuming it's like a webcam, maybe?
No webcams so far. Just a PNG tuber for the moment. We've been discussing the potential of maybe having like a live 2D model with like proper tracking and stuff, but
Oh.
that is for future. That is very future, Jackie.
Oh,
We're gonna get there
wow.
one
So
day.
this model is voice activated. I gotcha. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that proves that you can make entertaining, engaging content with not a high horsepower PC. That's awesome. Okay,
Not really, no.
let's talk about software. What software do you use to do your streams?
Now that is a little bit more complex because we do have some stuff running here in the background. We use a lot of Mix It Up to get like some cool interactions with chat and stuff. It is a tool that allows us to have like counters. We have our daily therapy cookie, which is like your daily check-in stuff. We handle that with Mix It Up. We have like visual like images and videos and all that sort of stuff is handled usually through Mix It Up as well. or first, second, that shows up the person's name and everything. That's also handled with Mix It Up. For the model, we're using a free program called PNG Tuber Plus, which we use. For the streaming itself, we use Streamlabs. And then for audio processing, I pass everything through Adobe Audition and then through Voice Meter.
Wow. Okay, so software-wise, you got quite a bit going on, but it makes
Yeah.
good audio. That's good. Runs your VTuber and the interactions. That's fun. That's fun. Okay.
Hmm.
All right. So now let's get more of your background and your experience. Can you tell us a bit about your journey becoming a therapist specializing in ADHD and familial conflict?
Well, that's a heck of a journey.
Yeah, we're
I
here. We're
mean,
here. Let's do it.
uh, I was gonna say not to make like a very story incredibly long. Um, I think what ended up happening is that my original background is in engineering.
Oh, what?
I started yeah, I started becoming an engineer while I was still working.
Mhm.
In my first year at my job, I was working as a car mechanic first, and then I switched over to interpreter. And during all that, I was studying to become an engineer. I got my degree and everything, and I think was doing my degree actually while I was getting my degree that I was like, I kind of hate engineering. Like engineering is fun and everything, but like working with engineering is really tiring, is really vexing, just because um engineering spaces don't treat women very well already. Like it's already like a very male dominated like field, and you get treated like, imagine this, as an engineer you're already treated like a child more often than not by seniors, and if you're a woman it just gets worse. It's like you get double at that.
Mhm.
So I was already like, well, what do I actually want to do? What have I always wanted to do? Well, I enjoy helping people a lot, which means that I immediately switched over to start studying psychology, because I'm like, man, I can help people like this. But then as I'm studying psychology, I'm also going to the therapist. And going to the therapist was really good because it showed that most of my issues that I've had throughout my whole life were at first, I figured out was because of issues with my family. And then later in life was because of ADHD related issues. So that gave me north to be like, hey, if I can learn more about this sort of stuff, I can also teach other people and I can kind of inform them into having like better life decisions and lifestyles, better than I had, because I made a lot of mistakes. And my whole intention was like, maybe I can teach people to not make the same mistakes I did, right? Or to
Mhm.
not make like the same kind of like um false assumptions about themselves like I did, where I'm like, oh, I'm a horrible person, and it's like, I'm not a horrible person, I just grew up with a really toxic family.
Yep. Okay. We got a comment that says, "When art issues stem from family." Yeah, that's who you tend to spend the most time
Yeah,
with. So it's just I've well observed you humans, and you just seem to have conflict with other humans, and the majority of your time is with family. That's statistically probably what's going to be the cause. But let me
I think it's
deviate.
interesting when it comes to psychology is because when we are talking about like issues stemming from family, this is where we come with like multiple branches, which is why I always talk like, hey, you need to find a therapist or a psychologist that works for you. Because much like actual engineering, if you ask someone like, "Hey, why is my machine not working?" People are always like, "Oh, lack of maintenance." And true, a lack of maintenance will always cause a machine to not work. But someone can be like, "Well, lack of maintenance will cause a machine not to work, but also the pieces you got are really cheap." And you're like, "Oh, right. So if I had better pieces, it would mean less maintenance." But then someone will be like, oh, yeah, but also aside from the pieces, the machine as a whole is bad quality. So if I got a more expensive machine, it would already come with expensive parts, which means less maintenance. And with psychology, it's pretty much the same. It's like, yeah, all the issues come from family, but it's like, well, what about the behaviors? Which is why we have like psychoanalysis, we have cognitive behavioral therapy, we have phenomenology. So you have like all these different branches of psychology and therapy that will kind of like look at a problem, all of them correctly, just through different angles. So, like, yes, issues can almost all become from family, but also can also be looked at from different angles that is not like family oriented.
Okay. And then allow me to dig a little deeper. What what
Hmm.
discipline did you get your engineering degree in?
I got an automation doing
Automation.
coding and coding and mostly with mechanical arms and automation of just machines and loops in like big factories.
Ah, okay. And then you also mentioned ADHD. Does that mean that you also have ADHD?
I have ADHD so bad. I have
Oh,
way too much of it.
okay. And was part of your study to understand yourself a lot more?
In a way, I feel like that is such a common thing that happens with people who go to psychology, but that is completely the wrong way to go about it. You should never
Mm.
go to psychology to understand yourself because one of the first things they tell you is that there is no way for you to do therapy on yourself. Like you cannot be your own psychologist. Like you just
Oh.
can't. It's like you can't do that. The reason I went to specialize in ADHD was because I learned about myself through ADHD with my therapist, and that was really like,
Mm.
oh my god, so that was it. And I wanted to essentially be that same person that my therapist was to me to other people.
Wow. Okay. Okay. All right, let's continue this discussion. What made you decide to focus on reaching the gaming community with mental health resources?
Well, I mean, I already play a lot of video games in my spare time, right? So like I'm always playing video games, and it just felt natural because the more you play with video games, you definitely end up meeting a lot of people that need that help, but they really don't have like a way to like reach out or a way to like talk about it, or they don't even know if it's a possibility. I think ever since I got my ADHD specialization, one of the most common things I've heard about people is like when I'm talking about ADHD, people go like, "Oh, well, I kind of am like that, but I thought that was just normal." And it's like, no, it's not normal.
Oh.
You maybe you probably have ADHD. So for me, that was like, well, I'm already hanging out in these spaces. These are already my people. These are already my community and the people I'm kind of around with. And so it just felt natural because it is rare to see people talk about it in a way that's like a little bit more laid back and natural and not as, I guess, in a way like a lot of people can be very preachy about it, you know?
Hmm. Let me deviate a little bit more. Do you feel like Twitch has a lot of chatters and community members that have ADHD more so than like the normal population?
Hmm. I think so, but then again, I think my view would be biased. There's this phenomena we call like like birds of a flock when it comes to people who are neurodivergent. Where
Hmm.
like if you're neurodivergent, you're much more likely to hang around people who are neurodivergent because your brain just kind of work, if not at the same speed, at a very like different enough speed that is like still comfortable from like regular people who are maybe not ADHD. So, someone might see a stream. I think this is a thing that happens too often is like for some streams, people will be like, oh my God, there's so much going on. There's too much going on. I can't understand what's going on. Like there's a lot of stuff on the screen. There's a lot of stuff happening in chat and I'm getting lost, right? But people that have ADHD, they just look at that and they're just like, it's fine. Like I can keep up with it. Like there's not, like it's pretty normal. So like even though in my perspective I would say yes, I think there is more, but then again, the people I hang out with, the people I'm watching their streams, the people that come to my streams are more likely to come to our streams or these streams to begin with because they have ADHD. But I do feel like
Mm.
Twitch as a whole, if you're really, really getting into it, I think it rewards people with ADHD more because it allows you to be like in multiple chats at once. It allows you to be in multiple communities, talk with multiple people at the same time. I think it is a more comfortable space if you have ADHD than if you are neuro if you're just neurotypical.
Hmm. I'll agree with that, especially because like I don't know. Do you understand XQC? Like sometimes, like when he talks, and like it kind of goes
Yeah,
like 1,000 miles per minute, man. Like, and his stream content's
yeah,
just like
people
all over
enjoy
the
that.
place. And I've noticed there's a lot of community members that keep up and enjoy it quite a bit, and can translate
Yeah,
him for me sometimes. Okay.
yeah, that's why it's like important to understand that as well. It's just like sometimes people just don't understand the speed. I feel like this is so common, especially when you're talking about like as you do often, right? You're seeing a lot of like people from like spaces where like all the content is like cut and edited,
Mm-hmm.
and like from like spaces like YouTube, for example, or Instagram or TikTok, where they have the ability to cut and recut, reshoot, shoot again until they get it right. Look at their script and be like, well, this is not forming a narrative. This is not really forming a point.
Hey,
And then they're
Lil.
making criticism of someone who has a live stream platform where it's just really more like it's on my brain. I let it out of my mouth and I talk about it, and it just kind of goes. So it's like, yeah, it's like an entirely different form of like media creation. And in regards to like having ADHD, the ability of having something where you can just sit down and talk and create content is much more appealing and much more natural than one where you have to like script and edit and cut and reshoot and all this sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Nice. Pete made a really good comment. He said, Jackie is also an amazing artist. Can you tell us
Oh,
a little
stop it,
bit
Pete.
about your artist background?
It's just always been drawing, really. I don't really have any like formal background in it. I went to college for design a couple years ago, back when COVID started, just to keep myself busy more than nothing. Didn't actually finish it, didn't get a degree, but did get plenty of drawing lessons by then. Um, and I ended up doing silly little doodles and drawings. I mean, I do the same kind of style I've been doing for like most of my little comics and stuff. And yeah, I mean, it's just last stream I was drawing people who were subbing to me. So like everyone who subbed, I was making like a silly little doodle for them. And also every time I do a collab, I tend to do like a little PNG tuber for them, just to have them in like in the little corner. Because I don't want someone to have like a cam when I'm not camming as well. So I'm like, I'll just make you a little PNG tuber for yourself. So I ended up doing these silly little doodles and drawings. It's nothing serious, but I'm glad that people enjoy them.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah, a lot of people enjoy them. And also, welcome, Little Hollow. We are interviewing Jackie's advice. All right, let me
Uh,
ask you, how do you think your background as a therapist can help gamers deal with the challenges they might face?
I think in my case, a lot of it comes just from if I can be as honest and as candid, I really do think it is more of just having the authority more than anything else. And this is a case that we see a lot with a lot of psychologists and a lot of therapists. The stuff that I'm saying is nothing new a lot of the times. It's very rare for the stuff that I'm saying to be something new or mind blowing. I'm not the first person to tell people that, like, hey, you have to actually sleep and drink water and eat food if you want to get better. If you feel depressed or if you feel stressed, you actually need to eat actual food and drink the right amount of water for your body weight. And you actually need to have good, satisfying sleep. This is nothing new. This is not like mind blowing, like life hack will change your life. But the fact that I do have like a therapist background make people go like, which I've heard several times, like, oh, you should listen to Jackie. Jackie's an actual licensed therapist.
Mm-hmm.
And that I think is what helps the most. The secret sauce, as I would say, is just generally having a lot of empathy and actually caring for people's well-being. Because if you do, you're telling these things with an understanding that people may have difficulty following certain types of advice, understanding that people will have difficulty actually listening to you. So you try to make sure that the advice you're giving is like the best tailored for them. So
Yep.
you're like, oh, just saying someone should drink water is not good because you know the person is not going to drink water just because you said so. But if you're like, well, how about this? Like, maybe drink a cup of water per day. A cup of water is much easier to drink than 3 liters. So we start with a cup. That's a little bit easier. Like you need to go downstairs anyway to do a thing. Just grab a cup of water, send it down, one large gulp, and there you go. we start somewhere, you know?
Hmm.
And then people are like, well, you should listen to Jackie. She's a therapist. And that's what helps.
All right. Pete says, but the way Jackie talks to you makes you feel more like a friend saying it. For me, that's amazing.
Yeah, I think that's what I said. That's the secret sauce is the empathy, is
Hmm.
the actually caring for people's well-being. Like that's what makes it special. Having the therapist background helps just kind of solidify what you're
Hmm.
putting down, but realistically is actually caring for people helps.
Also, also encourage Pete to sleep. I don't know.
I'll try my
He's,
best.
uh,
I'll try my best.
he's a streaming machine, man. Like sometimes I've seen Pete go up to like 48 hours streaming. And I'm like, bro, please sleep, please. And he's like, it's for the week.
Mhm.
I'm like, no, it's not. uh, uh,
Well, that's the thing with in regards with people with like and I'm sorry Pete for calling out so brazenly, but if you have like a bad behavior that is a consistent bad behavior, we cannot assume to like break someone out of bad behavior on a whim. It is usually things that need to be like slowly kind of like eked out. Like you need to like slowly kind of like build a better repertoire. So it's not
mhm,
like Pete sleep good every day, like go to bed at 9 p.m. like a good boy. It's more like instead of doing a 48-hour stream, venture doing like a 45, may venture doing 40s at a time. You know, if you're feeling sleepy already, venture at taking naps, venture at ending your stream earlier when you know you could do more, and a couple hours earlier than
mhm. Oh.
a lot all at once.
Mm, okay. Um, oh, welcome, Clever. Welcome back. Ray Dog had a very good question that I wanted to get to. Uh, what do you say to someone who is dealing with mental loneliness?
Mm. Mental loneliness. That's a pretty interesting thing we've been talking about a lot in the circles of therapy and psychology we've been talking about, mostly because mental loneliness is really, really hard to look into because if you're feeling mentally lonely, even though you are surrounded
Oh, I think we hit a lag spike.
out what exactly is that it's causing that loneliness, right? What is exactly that is kind of like making that loneliness happen. So that is really, really important. Like thinking about what is it that is making you feel lonely? What is it that is you're missing, right? So in that sense, I'd say like there is no easy one type answer. My answer will always come in two steps. The first one, of course, being like find a good therapist, find a therapist that you vibe with, and speak with them because this is a difficult, complicated thing. Like put time into it and learn exactly what makes you tick and what exactly makes you feel like you're lonely, and try to like go after that thing because it's coming from like a deeper space.
Hmm.
The failing to find a therapist or not being able to, the second point is, yeah, be introspective. What is exactly of that loneliness that you're feeling? What is exactly it is it that you're missing? What would you actually want in order to not be lonely? And then you can find multiple different ways to achieve that that might not be the most straightforward, maybe a little bit out of the box, and that at least gives you a plan.
There you go. There you go. So it's very complex, Ray Dog, but key looks to be make sure you have the right help. So, okay. Okay. Um, also, welcome, Clever. Welcome, Clever. Um, let's see. All right, so let's focus on ADHD and gaming. What are some of the
Mhm.
common signs and symptoms of ADHD that a gamer might experience?
Hmm. So there is a couple. I think the most common one, and again, these are the thing with like ADHD and symptoms as a whole is that there are 21 main ADHD symptoms recognized by the DSM-5, which is like the holy bible for psychologists and psychiatrists. So you have like 21 symptoms, right? And you need at least 5 to be considered like you have ADHD.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you feel one of these does not necessarily mean you have ADHD. But if you have an inkling or doubt that you have ADHD, please go and get tested. See if you do, because if you do, getting treated for it can be life changing. But for me, I think it's like pretty common that you see people that have thousands of games but doesn't know what to play. Like they want to play a game, but they have so many games and they still feel unsure about what they want to play. Feels like a pretty common thing. Another one is the one of like there's a game you really really want to play. You're excited to play it, but you can't actually sit down and play it for some reason. You feel like something is stopping you from playing the game you really really want to play. Like you're like, man, I can't wait to play the game, and then you sit down and you just can't really click the play button for some reason. And another one could be to if you have a multitude of games that you're like so excited to play, but once you get playing, you don't really feel that joy anymore that you used to feel at playing, even though like you're doing all the motions. You're getting the wins you want, you're getting this, but it's just not bringing you that satisfaction anymore. All of those are usually related to the main thing when it comes to ADHD, which is a difficulty in receiving and creating dopamine is the main issue with ADHD. Dopamine is a chemical that your brain produces and receives that makes you feel fulfilled. It makes you feel happy in a way like you've just done a big chore and you feel proud about yourself. People with ADHD have a really, really hard time actually capturing that chemical in their brain. So, in that way, that's why we do multiple things at the same time, is because we need to do multiple things in order to capture the smallest, tiniest amount of dopamine to feel good about ourselves. And if you feel like you have thousands of games, but none you want to play, might be because you're like, well, none of these are going to give me the dopamine I want because I want this much dopamine, and all of these will give me just this tiny little of dopamine. Don't make me happy, but they won't make me as happy as I need to suffice this dopamine need. And the other thing about like there's a game you want to play, but you don't want to play, it can come from a thing in ADHD called executive dysfunction that just stops you in your tracks and you're unable to do the thing you want to do no matter how much you want to do it. And that is an ADHD symptom as well. So we see these things kind of like show their heads sort of in the gaming spaces, but as always it can be a multitude of things, but these are the most common way I would say that I can see like a clear like delineation between ADHD and gaming.
Yep. Wow. I feel called out, not gonna lie. Dead Pete says that's 100% me. Little Hollow says, yep, there's a lot to fit, and the majority of those already got diagnosed and everything. So, yes, Little Hollow. I've interviewed Little Hollow before. He's confirmed he also has ADHD.
Mm.
Bubblebeam says, what about consistently going back to a game that you know isn't what you really want to play? Is that a sign, do you think?
Hmm. I feel like that can be something like that, especially if that was a game that used to give you the dopamine you wanted back then, but it doesn't anymore. That could be it. But then again, it could
Mm.
also be the case of wanting something. It's kind of like how like if you have a kid and they're really, really craving a specific type of food, it could mean that they have some sort of deficiency in their body for one of the specific vitamins in that food. Like if you want a kid that really, really wants to eat mushrooms all the time, they may have iron deficiency, stuff like
Mm.
that. Like if you have a game you really, really want to play when you know it's not like what you want, maybe you're searching for something that is missing from your quote unquote social diet. So in the case of
Mm.
like, oh, I keep playing this PvP game, it makes me mad, it makes me angry, but I can't stop playing. What is exactly why you're playing it? Do you play it because you like a challenge? Because if it's the challenge, there are other games that can provide you the challenge. Is it because of the multiplayer experience of it? There's other games that could provide. In that case, exploring other game options, exploring other venues of entertainment could be the path towards having a more healthy behavior, especially when it comes to gaming.
All right. Um, Seal also says, I'm pretty sure I'm executive dysfunction. And then Clever
Yeah.
says, as a former gifted child that always aced my tests but never did my homework, I'm pretty happy to report that I got an A plus on the ADHD test. Interesting, Clever.
Nice.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Uh, and Little Hollow says, I would drink tea and coffee as a kid, which kinda helped subconsciously treat ADHD. That's right, because with the caffeine you get the good chemicals, right? Or something like that.
What we do get with caffeine is that it stimulates your brain, and it stimulates like all of the brain like pathways and all the stuff that kind of gets your brain going, in which case it makes your brain work at double the speed, double the capacity, which means it can get that dopamine quicker, which is the issue that we
Uh,
with ADHD have. We have an issue capturing, the dopamine being released by your brains. So by having your brain work at twice the speed, you can grab more dopamine, which is why most of the medicine that we use to treat people with ADHD are what we call stimulants. And stimulants work in the same way. They make your metabolism faster, in which turn makes your brain go faster. And by making your brain go faster, it might sound counterintuitive, but stimulants actually make your brain go slower. Because the reason why the ADHD brain goes faster is because we're trying a billion things to get dopamine at once. Once your brain
uh,
is actually functioning faster, it's like imagine a car, right? A car going at high speed will consume less gasoline than a car that is constantly going and stopping, going and stopping, going and stopping. With stimulants, it's pretty much the same. Once your brain is at full speed and is able to capture all the stuff that they need, you actually calm down your brain by quite a bit because you're getting what you need. So you don't need to stress or work as hard. Caffeine works in the same sense. The problem is that caffeine has a lot of adverse side effects, not to mention, the addiction to caffeine in of itself that can be quite harmful. In which case is if you do have ADHD, taking the proper medication is always going to be better option than to relying on caffeine. However, knowing how difficult it is to get medication and it is to get treated a lot of the times, caffeine will work on a pinch, but it is not a sustainable thing.
Chipotle says, I'm not addicted. I can stop whatever I want. I think that's caffeine. Nice, nice. Also clever. If you are interested in the future, if you're interested in an interview like this, I would be more than willing to reach out. And I will shout you out at the end of the interview. But this is the cornerstone of my content. I do interview content. I talk to other streamers to see, what makes them tick, what made them do the streaming journey. And today we're learning all about Jackie and Jackie's story.
Mhm.
Uh, Seal says diagnosed ADHD means years back, but got an appointment book to get updated diagnosed. Grade school, however, was like me hiking a very steep hill. That's true because like ADHD makes education challenging for a lot of, I'll say non-neurotypical uh, uh, students. Correct?
Yes, very much so. The problem is more towards what exactly makes or infrastructure when it comes to teaching people. Like that is the major issue. The issue is that the way we work with teaching kids is one that requires a lot of like memorization, hard work, and discipline, which is not the fortes of people with ADHD, which is
Hmm.
why we get so many of what Clever had pointed out, the gifted child syndrome. Because people with ADHD can be and often will be very, very smart. They're able to, think quick on their feet. They're able to think outside the box. They're able to come up with incredible, like, here's the better explanation I have for it that I have seen as a teacher. I had a student who, in order to pass the test I was given, came up with a incredibly complicated, like, four-step plan on how they're going to cheat the test. And this took them about 3 days to come up, where they would go to the bathroom and they would have like pre-planted things that they would look at, and they would use systems to memorize the stuff that they put in there. And it's like, if you just studied, you wouldn't need this. The amount of time you spent doing this, you could have just studied. But if you have ADHD, you understand that sitting down to read stuff, to memorize it, is not really stimulating to the brain. It's not really interesting.
Mm.
It does not give that dopamine like reward that you want. So it becomes like nigh impossible to get there. So yeah, it's the way that we teach kids by forcing them to read books and memorize stuff is probably the worst way we can do that with people with ADHD, which is why we're already seeing, like, especially in I think both Sweden and in I think it's the Swedes and the Danish have already have like specialized classes for people who are ADHD and autistic, or a blend or mix of the both, where the tests are more related towards actual knowledge and application of that knowledge versus memorization, because
Mm,
that seems to function better for people who are neurodivergent.
okay. Speaking of that, Raydog has a comment that her son is ADHD and borderline autistic. Is it common? Or is it common that a lot of times they could be a little bit of both?
It is more common than you would think. You see,
Oh.
for people that have autism and the people that have ADHD, there is a lot of blend between the two symptoms, in
Mm-hmm.
turn, which makes it actually kind of hard to separate autism from ADHD for a lot of psychiatrists because of these symptoms being so closely tied knit together. It is very common that people with autism will showcase symptoms of ADHD and vice versa, because it is essentially the brain functioning the same way. It is the inability of the brain to receive and parse certain types of chemicals. In the case of autism, we have different sort of chemicals than ADHD, but it usually is the same. And of course, not to mention that if you have autism, your inability or difficulty to understand certain types of cues, certain types of triggers, cause and effect, and causality and effect, and so on and so forth, can appear and behave similarly to someone with ADHD, inability or difficulty to understand how their actions are influencing others or themselves. And so we have a lot of overlap between the two.
Mm. Raydog says she's absolutely right about that. Okay, okay. And Clever made the comment, he says, oh god, I feel called out. Hacking the system is so much more fun. True, Clever. True. And then Little Hollow made the comments, I only got properly diagnosed 2 years ago. I was never sure what I had and blame myself a lot for different things ADHD affected me with. And he said, yep, hated having to do
Mm-hmm.
papers and studying when I was in classes, group discussions where I learned the most. Interesting. Okay, so yeah, you could definitely be like the Swedes and the Danes and have a curriculum that's better set up for those uh, neurodivergent students, and it probably be more beneficial for everybody. Well, that's good. That's good. Um,
Mm-hmm.
all right, let's talk about ADHD and gaming some more. How can gamers cope with the challenges of ADHD while gaming, such as focus, attention, and hyperactivity?
Hmm. My answer to that is the same answer that I have for everyone that comes into my practice complaining about ADHD, right? I have a very laissez faire kind of like treatment to all of this stuff. I kind of live and let live. It is only a problem if it is bothering you, right? If you have ADHD and you're not feeling bothered by it, it's not causing a ruckus in your life, it's not making you feel bad, there's absolutely nothing for you to fix or to change. If it is causing a problem to other people, it is also nothing that you need to change or you need to like fix, unless that bothering other people bothers you as well. Like you want to not bother other people, you wish it didn't bother other people, and it makes you uncomfortable the fact that you're bothering other people, in which case there are some strategies you can do in order to focus. One thing that I see a lot people complaining, especially in regards to like gamers, which I do have a couple in my practice, is that they'll constantly talk about how they will either go on very, very long tirades that nobody seems particularly interested in and they feel like they're annoying everyone around them. Or sometimes they'll be like, well, I didn't have anything to add to the conversation, so I just stayed quiet in my corner and didn't say anything for the whole time. And then people thought that they didn't want to be there. So, what we want to do here is if the issue is multiplayer, to use the language, if the issue is social, in regards to like how you're talking with other people, always, it doesn't matter, always asks. There is nothing wrong with asking. Never have been a problem been made worse by over communication. Talk to people, ask people, do you feel like you're going on a long tirade? Be like, I feel like I'm going on a long tirade. I don't want to bother you guys. It's fine. If people are like, oh no, we actually want to hear you, they'll tell you. If you were actually going on a long tirade and did want to hear about it, they'll probably be like, oh, okay, thanks. Or they'll be like, oh no, don't worry, it's fine. And then they'll move on to a different topic. You're giving them an out, essentially, right?
Mm-hmm.
But people won't know that unless you talk to them. Similar with being quiet. If you feel like you've been quiet for a long time and you because you didn't have anything else to add, don't be worried to say like, "Hey guys, I'm just a little quiet because I don't have an opinion on this, but I'm still here. I'm enjoying hanging out with you guys. I like being here." Again, nothing can be made worse by over explaining, by talking your point, by saying where you stand. In regards to like your own problems you might have while gaming, like you really want to finish a game, but you're like, you can't sit down and focus on it, or you can't sit down and actually like play the game. My answer would be more towards of like, why do you want to finish the game to begin with? If you can't keep your focus, if you can't like, if the game can't grab your attention, why is it that you want to finish? Do you want to experience the story? Well, you can watch someone else play and you will still experience the story. Well, no, I actually wanted to have the challenge of playing the game. Well, then, be aware that you're forcing yourself to do something that is not fun. A lot of the times, the honesty of it all can be very compelling. The problem is a lot of the times is you sit down to play a game to have fun and you're like, ugh, I can't get through this. You're not being honest the fact that you're not having fun, that you need to do the part that is not fun to get to the good bit. So having that honesty with yourself can be super, super helpful of being like, I'm doing the shitty part of the game so I can get to the fun part of the game. And that is just what I kind of need to do right now.
Hmm. That's good advice. I also still feel called out because there's like several games that I was like, there's a Final Fantasy. I can't remember which one it was, but it had a character by the name of Lightning. Like, I had loved that series so much that I really wanted to play that game, but it just put me to sleep every single
Yeah.
time. And then I just resolved that I'm never going to be able to finish this game. It's too grindy, it's too slow moving, and that's okay.
Hmm.
Like, I could probably just do like you said, watch videos on the lore and the story behind it and get the same type of good chemicals from actually
The
knowing the
entertainment
story.
you want from it.
Yeah, the entertainment. Yep.
Hmm.
Okay. And Elden Ring, I also resolved to be like, hey, my community and I don't like watching me die and practice on a boss with 100+ tries. So
Right.
it's okay to use summons, but it's okay to ask for help. And it still becomes
Right.
a great experience. In fact, I watched you play Elden Ring, but you know, uh, somebody else co-op, and that actually looked like a better gaming experience because one, you're having an engaging conversation, you were
Yeah.
having fun, and it was way easier to tag team on a boss. Like,
Hmm.
okay, uh,
Especially because you can do like really co-op and you can be like, oh, you're trying this, I'll try this instead. And oh, you're doing bleed, well, I'll do frost. That way we have two status effects. Or you heal and I will tank and I'll try to draw aggro. Like there's a lot going on, which makes it definitely more engaging for sure.
mm-hmm. Oh, Hellish Floor has a comment. Oh, I had a thought. Often on Jackie's channel, people want to ask the question but don't want to type them in chat, so we use a form. If you guys want, you can drop the link. Yeah, actually, you'd have to DM
Yeah,
it to
sure.
me. You'd have to DM it to me.
Yeah,
Can you
I'll
DM me your link?
I'll send it to you right now, Tom. Yes, can
Because
do.
if they try to do it in the chat, it's gonna get auto modded. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then Const says, I feel that way towards Drakengard Nair lore, but I don't want to play the game. I'd rather watch somebody else play and watch lore videos. Um, and then Seal says, and we watched the other person lose their mind or struggle with their connection. That was very entertaining.
That is true. We did. We did do that.
Nice. Okay,
Um,
Pete dropped the
yeah, that
link
was actually
to.
kind of like a fun little thing. I think I tried to explain to you because you popped up on the stream, but
Mm,
the person I was streaming with collaboratively, Clay, he was having a lot of difficulties with their connection. Their internet was not doing really great. It was supposed to be a collab stream on their channel. Um, and they were having a lot of issues. They were getting frustrated. They got angry. And then I was just like, you know what, Clay, how about I stream it and you come to my stream and we just turn my stream into your stream? So we turned my stream into theirs. I changed my entire layout to look like theirs. And I tried making like the channel points redeems of theirs, and we did all that live in under like an hour or so while having a laugh. And that was definitely one of the highlights of my streaming career, I would say,
Hmm.
because it was really fun to pick something that was like really frustrating and angry and annoying, and just turning into like something that was really really funny and like really interesting and like a joy. Like you pick something that's broken and something that like we would have called it a wash and be like we can meet another day and stuff, and turn into something great.
I gotcha. Uh, oh, I did miss your question, Casille. Why do Swedes and other countries mentioned have better programs, yet North America seems stuck in the dark ages per se? As American, I can
Hmm.
say we are definitely focused on profits more than people in a lot of ways, especially in the healthcare industry. Insurance companies want to provide you the minimal care while taking the maximum amount of withholdings and providing no payouts for different aspects of our lives. Um, and then with the education, again, they don't see a huge return, which I think is so backwards. I feel like education is
Yeah.
very important, and we should be investing in the education as much as possible, because that's the future. That's where I think, the Swedes and the Danes, uh, they have their own problems, but they definitely do prioritize education. Um, Also, they tax quite a bit over there as compared to the U.S. Not that I would mind. Like if I knew that we'd get better quality education, I wouldn't mind so much of a tax increase. But I would also prefer that the billionaires that have paid zero tax pay some effing tax. Like they could have
That would be great. That would be
like
amazing,
they
wouldn't
could
it?
have one less Lambo. Like they could just have one less Lambo, and
Yeah.
it makes
Just imagine if they
such
could like have like a couple less yachts, and like that would be insane. Have like every single millionaire have one less yacht, and then all of a sudden we have amazing like healthcare in the United States, right?
yeah, like like we're not even saying they can't have a yacht or multiple Lambos. We're just saying one less, just one less,
One
by
less.
actually
Yeah. Just
paying
one
their effing
less.
taxes. And then,
Yeah.
we could afford a lot
Crazy.
better programs. So, sorry, that's my tirade.
Logistically though, um, there is like kind of like something to be taken account as well in regards to like Scandinavian countries being just smaller per capita and also being insured and protected by the European Union. That also helps a lot.
Hmm.
For example, the United States, if they're trying to like have a better system or change entirely how the like schooling system works, it's not necessarily something that like Utah can decide all of a sudden, or California can decide all of a sudden we're changing the schooling system. Like they can't really do that without like governmental like oversight. In which turn creates the whole bureaucracy and makes it more difficult. In a way, the size and scope of a country as large as the United States makes it more difficult to have that sort of like fast changing kind of necessity. Because here's the thing, the ADHD epidemic is quite new. When we hadn't really understood what ADHD was until a decade and a half ago, which is when we really started like really doing some hardcore like research on it. So the Scandinavian countries are moving quite fast in like trying to adapt to it, already seeing the issue become much worse in a couple of decades from now. And when a country that big with that much bureaucracy, it becomes difficult to be able to move that fast.
Hmm. Clever says, we should cap the wealth of X million, but then everything over that threshold goes to social programs, but we give cool wealth badges so that they can collect.
You have a
That's
founder's badge if you made it to 3 million.
Canada was nice since its system started as taxes support the middle system, so we have standard coverage for all citizens. Yeah, Canada does have its benefits with its healthcare for sure. In some countries, isn't free to get healthcare. True. Insurance is a
Yeah.
bonus at
Like my
hospitals.
country, Brazil. Let's go represent.
Nice. Nice. Um, I'm trying to decide if we can do one more gaming ADHD question before I can snooze the ad break. Or if we'll snooze the ad break.
Brazil. I'll go for it. I'll try to keep it
Mm.
short. I'll try to keep it tight.
All right, let's see if we can do this question. What are some strategies gamers with ADHD can use to create a healthy gaming routine? Because I feel like I for sure have some degenerative gaming routines, and it's
Hmm.
not good. It's not good. But what are some strategies we can do?
Okay, we're gonna break this down into three strategies, right? First
Okay.
one, honesty. Be honest with yourself. Is a game something you actually want to play, or you're being peer pressured into playing? Are you peer pressuring yourself into playing this? Is this a game you actually want to give a try, or you're doing it because it's the new cool thing, or is it because everyone told you that it's a thing you should play? Because if it is that, put it on the garbage, put it aside. You're never gonna play it. If you do play it, you might even enjoy it, but it's gonna take you forever, and you're never gonna get there. In the case of ADHD, you need a burst of energy for you to play that. And actually putting that on your list is counterproductive because you're only going to get there once you have that burst of energy. And having that on the list just means you'll feel bad about yourself because you're not getting into it. So be honest with yourself. Is this a game you really want to play, or you're just kind of like being sort of soft forced into playing it? If that's the case, then just be like, I'll get to it when I feel motivated to get to it, but not right now. This is on the B list for now. Second thing, scheduling. Scheduling is really, really important. I know it sounds silly, but it's really, really cool if you can be like, you know what, today I'm going to play 2 hours of game X. That's what I'm playing. I'm playing 2 hours of game X. Once the timer reaches zero, you stop playing or you find a good place for your save and be like, no more. That's enough of the game for tonight. Because that will leave your brain wanting to play more, wanting to pick it up instead of playing it until you're overburdened and you feel burnout on the game, which is another issue you have with ADHD of playing a game so much that you feel like you hate it by the time you end with it. So
Yep.
pacing yourself with how much you can play the game is really, really good. The scheduling also helps too because it allows you to be like, okay, at this time I'm gonna play it regardless of how I feel like, regardless if there's another game that suddenly got into my mind that I want to play, this is what I'm playing, and I'm gonna learn to enjoy it and have fun with it. And the third thing, which is probably the most important thing, is understanding that video games are supposed to be fun. If you're not having fun, if you're not enjoying yourself, don't be afraid of just dropping it because our time on this earth is very much finite. And as adults, our time, our free time is very much even more finite. If you're not having fun doing something on your free time that is supposed to be relaxing, don't be afraid to drop it.
Sounds like Souls players have fun. I feel called out. I do feel called out. Is that why maybe I stopped playing Among Us? I don't know, Allred. I don't know. It's also, you need good people to enjoy Among Us, I think. You should feel
Mhm.
called out, yes. I was suffering through the Souls game. I will say the DLC was suffering.
It was some. It was something. The DLC, I have strong opinions about it. I think visually it's amazing.
Yes, absolutely.
Sound wise, it's amazing. But
Absolutely.
I did not have much fun playing it.
Well, that's the thing, is it was successful in its objective of making seasoned players feel like new players again. But I feel like it did it in a dirty fashion. Like, there was input reading, there's also,
Yeah,
3-hit combos that insta-killed. Like, just instantly back, wham wham bam, you're dead. Like,
yeah.
like,
My favorite part of Elden Ring was like how all the bosses are just animation showcases,
mhm.
where it's just like, oh, the boss is doing that move. Okay, let me roll back like 40 feet away and wait for 30 seconds while they do their dance of death. So I was just sitting there from far away, just looking. Look at that. Attack one, attack two, attack three, into the AoE, into the swipe, into the grab, into attack 5 and 6 and 7 and 8. Cool. I can move in and get one hit. Okay, time
Yep,
to roll back again and see. Okay, attack one into attack two. It's just forever.
yep. Yeah, it was a showcase.
This is so boring.
Hmm. All right. I don't understand people who put themselves through that because you get a sense of accomplishment when you finally do beat it.
Yeah.
You do. And it does feel good. Like when I beat that stupid effing sunflower, I like
Right.
woke up all the animals in the house just by cheering.
Yeah.
And then
The
like
sunflower is one of the better ones for sure. Because that one has like it has a lot of like one shots, but it's like it is like you can understand their combos. Like you can like when I lost to the sunflower, I wasn't raging. I was just like, okay, I need to watch out for that thing
I was
when it does that
raging
thing.
because it faked me out not once, but twice. Twice.
That is
That
true.
fucking flower faked me out that I beat it. And I was like, surprise, I'm back. And
I'm
then
back. Yeah.
the worst part is now like I'm leery of sunflowers IRL. Like, let's see what out in the wild. I'm like, I'm watching you, buddy. I'm watching you.
You better not come back. Better not AoE me.
All right. I did want to deviate a little bit. Uh, so you are born and raised in Brazil, or what did, or tell us your Brazilian story.
My Brazilian story.
Mhm.
There's not a lot to tell, I would say. I was born in Brazil, born in Niterói, which is the neighboring city to Rio de Janeiro.
Oh,
So
nice.
like we're a stone throw away from Rio City. I'm born in the hills, and yeah, pretty much grew up there. Once I was old enough to work, I managed to have a job with the Navy, which allowed me to see the world, get to meet lots of different people, and through that, get a job as an interpreter, which I used to interpret for a lot of different folks, which allowed me to work with plenty of Americans and Australians, some Canadians, and that's how I got to learn a lot of English and talk a lot of English. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Pretty much
Yeah.
born, raised, and lived in Brazil my whole life.
Wow, because your English is very good. So I suspect you speak
Oh, thank you.
Portuguese. Do you s- uh
See,
do you speak any other languages? Do you speak Spanish?
I also speak Spanish. Yes, I speak Spanish and Portuguese
What?
and English.
Wow. Okay, and your Navy experience is where you got your mechanic experience, which helped get you into your engineering experience, which then transitioned into your psychology experience. Holy cow.
Yes, a very convoluted story. Yes, that's my very
Wow.
convoluted Brazilian story. So
That's pretty
a lot of
cool.
twists and turns, but um, yeah, I don't see any of it as like time wasted, just because I could learn more about myself. But I can definitely say that like yeah, like I think going to the Navy and doing engineering was definitely like not what I should be doing in the first place, as much as I ended up loving, doing therapy and psychology. Probably should have started with that earlier.
Mm, that's cool. You had an amazing adventure. Yeah, Ray Dog, listen to this story, man. I'm gonna have to go hang out with you on your channel so we can ask you more about it. Um,
I think I had a friend of mine, Zark, say that I'm a real living Hideo Kojima character.
yeah, yeah. You had an amazing adventure, Jackie. True, true. I wonder if she's got like Navy stories for us too. Um, all right,
um,
all right. Let's talk
yeah.
about familial conflict and gaming. How can gamers manage conflicts with family members who might not understand their gaming habits?
Whew, right. So that one, I think the most important thing for us to understand as gamers, right, is that this shit is really silly. It is really silly and really goofy what we do. We use little plastic toys with joysticks and whatever to pretend we're like little characters inside a virtual world. It's all really silly and goofy. We take it seriously because, of course, it's our hobby, it's our passion. But for outside viewers, it is really, really silly. And having the understanding that it's really, really silly is really, really helpful because that allows us to have like better communication in a one kind of way that allows people to understand, right? So, in the sense of like, how can you like, essentially get people from your family or people from your relation, people that you share like a room with to kind of like understand what you're doing? Having this understanding that what you're doing is really, really silly helps. Understand that like from the get go, you are already, you're climbing a mountain. You are already like on, you need to do so much work to be on the same level that they are. So like being a little bit more humble and a little bit more like understanding of how like kind of silly you look is really important to get people to understand. Of having to explain to them like it's the equivalent of like maybe watching a sports game on TV, or it's the equivalent of like catching up on a soap opera. Having this understanding is really important because that not only helps them understand what you're doing, but it also helps you understand what is actually important, right? So in the case of like someone is like, hey, um, there's someone at the door who really needs to talk to you. It's like something related to like a job situation or like a house situation or whatever, and you're doing you're doing your Elden Ring randomizer run, right? You're using a little plastic toy to pretend a little 3D person is a knight to kill like a big bird, right? I understand that you cannot pause in Elden Ring. I understand you're doing really good and you got that thing to like 1% health. But maybe, given how silly this sounds, this should take a seat in the back burner for a bit if it's an important thing. Like, just put the controller down and go solve that thing. Understand that what you're doing is really silly and not really that important in the grand scheme of things. Similarly, if what you're doing is actually important, you're spending time with someone you hadn't spent time in a long time, you're playing a game and it's like in a climax, like a cutscene situation you really want to go through. Like trying to tell people like, hey, I'll get to you in a second. I just really, really need to finish this really quickly. I promise you it won't take like 2 seconds. I just need to watch the finale of the show is really, really important as well.
And to make through on that promise, I've done that, and then like several
And
hours
yes.
have passed, and they're like, I thought it was going to be 2 more minutes. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, I need
Have
another
the
2 minutes.
yeah, no, again, honesty is important in all things. So, like, yeah, understand that what we do is inherently, intrinsically kind of silly, and understand that it's really not that important. It is important to relax. It is important for you to have your fun time, but as with most things, it is much more important for you to have like a healthy relationship with the people around you that live with you.
And Clever just says, I'm just a, uh, I'm just a silly little guy. Interesting.
Yes, yes.
But yeah, this is comp. If I leave, I'm gonna get a penalty. True, bubble beams. That is a different way to say it. It's tough when ADHD comes into play with time blindness. True, true. The hellish flora.
Right, right. Set timers. Timers are your friend.
Pizza's
Like
easy.
set
Live on your loan.
timers.
Oh, eat. I'm not sure that's good.
Yeah,
Uh,
easy, easy.
and
No, because
Miles.
here's the thing: people will annoy the crap out of you, but a lot of the times it's not like a bad thing to be annoyed. You know,
Mhm.
like it's not necessarily a bad thing to be annoyed to the real world. Because whether we want it or not, we live in the real world, and we have to make do with the fact that we live in the real world and that we cannot just shirk our responsibilities away. It's kind of like if I never had anyone bother me and I could just play Elden Ring for 84 hours consecutively without sleeping or eating or drinking, I probably would. But that's not really good for me.
No, it is not.
Having someone bother me and be like, hey, you need to do this thing or you need to do that, as annoying as that might be for my comfort, it is good for me. It is good to, like, again, have this honesty that, like, what we're doing is inherently a thing we do for just entertainment, for just joy, and let us know that, like, hey, having entertainment and joy is important, but we also have, like, responsibilities.
Yep. And then Miles says, maybe the world needs a little silly. Things are too stressed out. I will agree with that. I know this
Mhm.
has nothing to do with gaming, but how do you mentally deal with the news reports? Says Ray Dog.
Um, a couple of ways. First of all, I think being quote unquote woke is really important. Like having the understanding of like how media works, how news work. Essentially getting your news feed and your news report from essentially like multiple angles, multiple ways is kind of important to allow us to kind of like have a better understanding of what's happening, right? The world is a really, really big place, and there's a lot of things going on all the time, like a lot of things. A lot of really, really good things they're never going to get reported on because that doesn't necessarily bring you views, and a lot of bad things that people can report on to suffice like multiple types of agenda. I feel like regardless of what you're seeing on the news, it's always important to ask yourself, why are they showing you this, right? There is a news cast in my city that gets on my nerves because of that. They will talk about like all sorts of bad things happening from like robberies to worse all the time. And when they run out of robberies and worse things that happen in our city, they'll find more that happening on the neighboring town, and then more that happen on the neighboring state, and then more that happening on the neighboring country, and then they'll just keep going. And the reason is because they want to sell people to be afraid, for people to be scared of something. They want to sell you that. And the reason they want to sell you that is probably because there's some politician who's talking about, we're going to fix everything, we're going to be hard on crime, we're going to be hard on the bad things that are happening, and I'm going to fix everything. And that's the reason why they're putting that much fear and that much anger into people, right? So like being cognizant of why they're even showing or covering something in the first place is important. So like if they're showing like a story about someone who like got their life ended too quickly by some sort of violent act, like that is important, sure. But if they keep showing more and more and more, these are not new things. These things have been happening for a really long time, and it happens all the time in all parts of the world. There's always going to be like some sort of agenda to like this sort of thing they're going to be trying to push. And while keeping yourself informed is important, there's two things we have to ask. One, why is it that they're showing you this? Do they want to sell you something? Do they want to give you something? And B, is this actually being helpful or actually giving you something that is important to your life? Because if the answer is no to the second question, and the first answer or the answer to the first one is probably something because they want to sell you something,
Mm-hmm.
then maybe you should just cut down on the news, or maybe turn on to the news for things that matter, like things that you know that you need to know. Stuff like maybe primetime journal is a really good one. Like go wait until like it's primetime journal because then they cover the big things that is important to keep yourself like on track of, and maybe also keep track of like if there's any like weather warnings, weather stuff like that, or even using like one of those programs or one of those systems like Grounded News, which is a service that I hired that I think is really, really good to give you like actual like neutral line news.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. That's cool. So yes, I will agree. A lot of the world news I see out of Brazil is, you know, thieves, stabbings,
Right,
murders.
yeah.
But I'm willing
Hmm.
to believe, especially since we're talking to an actual Brazilian, that there's good people there that just want to hang out, have delicious food, and listen to music and dance and just have a good time. And that's probably
I mean,
more of the majority of the
I'll
people.
knock on wood. I'll
Okay?
knock on wood, but it's like I lived Brazil my whole life, but I've never been like robbed,
Mm-hmm.
and I've never ever seen someone get robbed either. So it's
Oh.
like, and I grew up in like one of the toughest neighborhoods in one of the toughest cities in the country.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more like, of course, the reason why we see is the same reason of like how Russia, people think everyone drives like crazy maniacs on Russia because you have so many of those dashboard cams and stuff, and it's really more of an exposure versus reality kind of thing. The
Mm-hmm.
reason why we think everybody in Russia drives like maniacs is because everybody has dashboard cams.
Mm-hmm.
So everything gets like, saved and everything gets uploaded. Same thing in Brazil. Everywhere here has CCTV. Everywhere has CCTV. Everything gets, pulled and everything gets like saved. So
Mm-hmm. I gotcha. And then here in the US, obviously, Ray Dog, like the whether it's extreme right or extreme left, the 24 news cycle really does just want it to keep us. They always say, stay tuned. We'll keep you informed. Like, don't leave. Like, they really want you to stay tuned in. And then meanwhile, you're getting ads for survival kits and, shelf stable food up to like 4 to 5 years. Whereas if you actually talk to the people around you, most of the people are in the middle. They might be skewed a little left, they might be skewed a little right, but none of them are, majority of people are not extreme right or extreme left. And it's just because of money. We let capitalism go burr, and the 24-hour news cycle makes a lot of money. Like, literally makes a lot. In fact, the 24-hour news cycle is the number one streaming uh, watched channel on YouTube. Like, we as gaming streamers, we are dwarfs in comparison to the live streaming news networks. So,
Right.
like, it's not even close. So, all right, Beppo's given us two walls of text. So let me see if I can read these. Well, the news, it's not much that their agenda, it's that they want to help politician or someone, it's that they over dramatize things to make them sound more important. They're just saying the world is gonna blow up tonight, and the only way you're gonna survive is to get the information we have at 11 tonight. It just happens to work well with everyone else seeing the agendas. It's important to remember that the Senate has always been corrupt and the Emperor has always been insane, ever since before the Roman times when the same thing was true. True, Peppa. True. Um, all right. And then Bubble says, it isn't interesting to post dashcam videos where everyone drives safely. True, Bubble Beams.
Yeah.
And then that's ad timing. Geofracture Games. Oh, I will shout you out in just a minute, Geofracture Games. Lol, I literally never watch live news. A lot of the stores and stuff with TVs are running some trashy news feed. That too, that too. I bet a lot of them are simply using YouTube. Yup, yup. And Ray Dog says, I don't dislike any country. I just wished all countries would get along. I think that's what the majority of humans on the earth would like. It's just gets complicated. It does get complicated. So, um,
Hmm.
okay. Um, all right, let's get back to uh, family conflict and gaming. Um, I avoid dropping news for my mental health, which means he avoids the first half of, or the first 2/3 of my stream.
What a
uh,
mod.
I also don't watch live news anymore, but then again, I don't have cable. I found most live news to be a bunch of people shouting, we just got here and we don't know what's going on. True, Geofracture Games. Alright, let's get back to family and gaming. Alright, what advice do you have for gamers who struggle with balancing gaming with other responsibilities and schoolwork or chores?
Hmm. I think I already sort of answered this, but like legitimately, timers and scheduling is king, especially if you have ADHD. And learning to know when you have like discipline is the best thing ever. But again, with ADHD, I cannot stress enough, especially because I'm a cognitive behavioral therapist. We usually run in this gamut. Um, ADHD is an issue you live your whole life with. You've lived your whole life with ADHD. You've made behaviors based on your ADHD. You spent 20 plus years living with ADHD and making behaviors off of ADHD. It's not going to be one person that tells you, like, hey, do this, that is going to solve it. You're going to need to put in effort, time. There's going to be need a plan. There's going to need a schedule. And oftentimes, if you do actually have ADHD, medicine is incredibly important and incredibly helpful. There are several types of stimulants, all of them different, that work in different ways that can help you actually get that focus and that ability to actually schedule and separate things, which is why I'm like, there are some stuff you can do here that can help you, like have a healthy routine for like separating your chores or when you need to actually game and stuff. So like I said, scheduling is really important. If you can have like a schedule, like every day when I wake up until 9 a.m., I do this. And then I go to work. And then when I come back to work until, like 7, I do this. And then from 7 to, 9, I play video games. And that's my schedule. Like having like a physical good schedule, like a schedule that you can follow along and keep up with, is really, really helpful. Not that you have to follow it to the T, but essentially training your brain to have discipline to know when it's time to game and when it's time to actually do the important stuff around the house can be super helpful. Now, how you get there, well, that's where I'm saying like having therapy is really good because then you can do it like in a more slower sort of format. Like again, you don't need to jump off the deep end, which is the hardest thing if you have ADHD. Like I can already tell, like if someone is listening to this, there's a lot of people forming ideas in their head of being like, oh man, starting tomorrow, I'm gonna have like my full schedule up to the minute of exactly what I do. And it's like, no, you will not. You may be able to do that for like a day, and then you're gonna fail doing it day 2, day 3. It is impossible. Which is why doing it slowly, surely, with a therapist following you along the way is super important. And then the medicine will help you give you that extra kick to actually get the, the boost to get there.
Hmm. All right, maladaptive coping behaviors say what, Jackie? This is clever.
What? Yep.
I
Yep.
feel called out,
You
says
have a lot of
Pete.
like bad behaviors.
I feel
You have a
called
lot
out.
of bad behaviors. All of us have bad behaviors. If you have ADHD or if you're autistic, you created bad behaviors to deal with the fact that your brain doesn't function as the rest of the society expects. And it's not going to be like one person saying, like, hey, maybe you should do your bed. Maybe you should play games only 4 hours a day. That's not what's going to fix it. It is a long and difficult process, and it takes time. It takes time. Like you shouldn't feel bad about yourself that you weren't able to become a quote unquote good and productive person overnight, because you can't, because you didn't become what you are today overnight. So like issues that took several years to form are not going to be undone in a couple of weeks even.
Hmm. Okay. Let's do this question because this kind of dovetails in this. How can communication be improved between gamers and their families to create a more supportive environment?
hmm In this case, in relation to people who like are part of like gaming communities and such, I think trying to speak the same language is important. Trying to
Hmm.
speak in the language that both groups can understand is really important, which is why I love things like analogies. I love analogies because that can help kind of bridge the gap that they might have. So, for example, if you have like Discord friends or gaming friends, don't be afraid of trying to explain to your parents that they're like actual real friends. They're friends that I know, that I trust, and that I like spending time with. We have fun, we laugh, we joke around. They're actual people I enjoy hanging out with. They're not nondescript entities of the internet. Because for people who don't use computers or who don't game, who don't know, they might have this idea that your internet friends are kind of like this weird amorphous blob. So like actually letting them know, like, and separating to them too, like, hey, I have this friend called this, and she lives in like Wyoming. She's really, really cool. She does art. We've been talking a lot about her art. She actually got me to starting doing art. Get your people, get your peeps, like roommates, parents, whatever have you, to actually know your friends, even if they don't ever actually meet or talk, to know of them as people, and to talk to your family and friends about your online friends as actual people as well. Like don't ever say to your parents like, oh, it's a Discord friend. Instead of saying, oh, it's a Discord friend, say, oh, it's Emily, she's an artist, she's going to art school, she does art, she's cool. Or oh no, that's Gato, he is a cool guy, he does like he plays video games for like an audience and stuff, and we chat about stuff, like actually like make people out of these people to your family so they understand that these are real people. And same if your games, right? Like these are not, you're not just playing games, you're spending time with your friends. You're not just playing games, you're taking time to relax off work. Like break these hobbies and things you do down to a language that your partner or your family or your roommate can understand.
Okay. I remember when my mom told me the friends I made on the internet were not real, says Constellum. Interesting.
Right.
Clever. He says, yes, Mom. Furry Backshotter 69 is a real friend. Jeez. Clever in the backshots. Like, he's a
I
backshot
know,
king,
right?
apparently.
He loves those.
My parents would joke about me being in a meeting. Oh, okay. Uh,
Yeah.
Mild says, having pioneers in a field to use an example also is a great way to communicate the hobby you are into. I use Miko as a point of success. True. True, Mild.
That is a very good point. Yeah.
All red people.
There is
Oh,
there's
go
a
for it.
book that I really like called I don't know. The name in Portuguese is like Humans as an Experiment or Humans as a Whole. And the author goes on to say that, we do not know the jobs that our sons and daughters are going to have.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we don't know what kind of jobs they will have. We don't even know what their jobs are yet because it hasn't been invented yet, right?
True. Mm-hmm.
So, like, understanding that can also be helpful too, depending on like your line of work. Because I definitely had more than one client being like, I work with generative, I have one client, she works with generative AI. She essentially curates databases and data banks for companies that use their AI for people that work inside the company to use it as like a, efficiency productivity tool. And she's like, I don't even know how to explain to my mother what I do, right? Because if I
Mm-hmm.
just tell they're like, I work with AI, I was like, oh, so you work for like ChatGPT, like they tell stories and stuff. And it's like, no, it reads like spreadsheets and spits out numbers. So it's like we have a difficulty to even explain to like our parents like what is it that we work in. I mean, even my own, parents, I had an issue trying to explain like what therapy is because they still imagine like therapy and psychology as being a thing for, the quote unquote the mentally insane that go to an asylum and stuff. So like, yeah, we're always going to be running up, against the edge of like
Mm-hmm.
what is explainable to our parents when we're like so close to like the world is changing so fast, essentially, right? So like, I think the idea of having explaining with like pioneers on the field of like, hey, look at what this person is doing, and this is a thing, this is a job, this is a thing that they do, or a hobby even, is very helpful indeed.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have to say, like that's a good thought process. Is like, and it's hard to understand that like the older generations don't think as mental therapy was. It's not even a thing. Like they just had insane asylums and then normies. Like that was it. Which is kind
Yeah,
of a
pretty
dark
much.
past. It's kind of a dark past, but I do like that it's getting better about people going to the doctor to, yearly checkups to validate that they're still healthy. And I do feel like mental health is starting to get there, where you can just, get some assistance just to validate that, you're still mentally and emotionally
Mhm.
healthy. Um, sorry. Let's see. Let me catch up with comments. Allred says people anywhere are still people, even if you don't visit them in person or up close. True, Allred. Then GeoFracture Game says, I think there's still going to be a line of division there in that people online tend to use aliases instead of their actual name. Older generations may not understand why this is even a thing. True, GeoFracture Games. True.
I think in that sense, in regards to like at least talking to like, older people about this sort of stuff or about your friends, is to like, like you have like, if I'm talking to like my wife, for example, about the stream I did, I'm not gonna say I did a stream with Ninja Gato 465 on Twitch, right? I'm just gonna say I had an interview with Gato. I had an interview with my friend Gato. Like, like
Mm-hmm.
mentioning them on the same level as you would like realistically can also help quite a bit. Similarly with like how I have a friend who helps me run the channel called The Hellish Flora. I
Mm-hmm.
almost never say The Hellish Flora unless I'm trying to push people to like message her on Discord or find her like links and stuff. Usually I just say Flora. So
Or
like even that sort of stuff is also important to understand how do we actually talk about these people, because then how we actually talk about these people is how we should actually talk to other people about these people.
actually, yeah, and then humanizing them with more of a traditional name, I think, but actually it does help. Like Gato
Hmm.
is like a common nickname. Uh, and
Yeah.
then Flora also is one. I talked to a cat online. Yeah, that's not that's not that's
Yeah.
yeah, that's gonna confuse the hell out of them. But if you say I was talking to my friend Gato, then they'll be like, oh yeah, okay, it must be some kind of weird
Yeah.
cat
Yeah.
dude, but that's all right, that's okay. Gato the interviewer,
Oh, real
true,
cat.
true. Hollow for me, that's true. Although we do know your real name, Little Hollow. Um, okay, okay. Um, let's talk about mental health and the gaming community. Um, what are some of the biggest mental health challenges facing the gaming community today?
Hmm. So that's an interesting question. Mostly because I think the canned response, the response that gets everyone to like clap and be like so brave, is to say that, like people don't talk about mental health nearly enough as they should. People have still like this very macho, like I don't need to talk about my mental health problems. I think my mental health problems are silly, or like they're not even problems at all. Why would I talk to people? Which I think is true, by the way. I don't think that's false. I think that's 100% true. But I always think like it always goes a bit deeper. For me, particularly, what I've been noticing a lot, the more I've been doing this and the more I've been talking to people, is that people have a difficulty in understanding that friends are not therapists. And I think that is
True.
the major problem we have. I think there is a lackadaisical, lackadaisical like attitude that people have towards therapists, that therapy is not a real job, or that therapists are overpaid, or that therapists are not needed, because so many people will come to other people's chats and come to other people's DMs and just start talking about some stuff that's really, really heavy or really, really difficult or really, really nuanced. And I think that's the major issue that we've been seeing here in the gaming community, at least from my perspective, is that people have a lot of issues. They have a lot of real, real issues. They want to talk to someone about it. And then they talk to someone who feels close, who feels comfortable, who feels like they care. But realistically, just because someone cares, just because someone loves you or someone cares for you, does not mean that they're equipped or handled to actually help you with your problem. So I think that is the major issue, is that people realistically should be understanding that like there's a certain level of problems you can bring to your friends, or something you should expect from your friends, which is what I'm saying. Don't be afraid to vent to your friends. Vent away, but don't expect anything in return, Talk like, man, my job's been like really shit, or I've been really, really sick and I feel sad. Your friend will at best be like, that's rough. Do you want to play a game? Do you want to hang out and talk a little bit? Maybe we can do something. That's what they can offer. But if you actually want to feel better, there's actual medical health professionals that are study and trained into trying to make you better and have generally a more better, healthier life.
Yeah. Sunmiya says, now there's a big part of society thinks mental problems are made up. Yeah. And I want to say, I'm a cat. I observe a lot of you humans, and the majority of you are big hot messes inside. You do try to play it cool. You try to play it like there
Yeah.
ain't nothing going on the inside. Oh no. This cat sees it. I can even smell it. You are all big hot messes, and I've seen you go to a bar, unload on the bartender or the person next to you at the bar, and they have no idea what to do with the information you just unpacked on them. It makes you feel better, but that's like a supplement. Like, you
Hmm.
probably talk to somebody who's trained and knows how to
Yeah.
deal with this type of stuff and can give you tools and reading and different things to help you process and come up with new ways of managing some of it. Like, uh, just like Jackie's saying, like, coming up with a schedule and finding healthy habits and things. Um,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I mean, honestly, I think I've talked about it before, but one of my favorite things is analogies, right?
mhm.
Treat yourself or treat your brain, your thought patterns, like a car, you know? Because here's the thing, if you go to a friend and you talk to your friend, like, my car sucks, it's been leaking all over the place, your friend will be like, man, that sucks. Do you need a ride? I can give you a ride. I know a friend who has a car. He might be able to lend it to you. We can go to a rental. These are the things your friend can do. If your friend is not a mechanic, the things that he cannot do is actually fix your car. Your car will stay broken. Your friend can offer you a lot of things that can essentially give a patch to your problem. But if you want to actually fix your car, you need to go to a mechanic. Your brain is no different. If you're feeling depressed, if you're feeling overwhelmed, you feel like your ADHD or your autism or whatever sort of neurodivergence you have is something that is like really, really holding you back, well, you can have friends that will help you patch that and get you the rest of the way and all that. But that is not a sustainable fix.
Nutters facts, says Beppo. Mild says, I wonder how many Waffle House waiters double as problem listeners. True.
True.
And then Mild said, gamers, especially ones with a lot of responsibilities and pressure, need someone to vent to. Also, stop destroying their controllers. True. True. And then Casil says the one that plays Souls games. Hey, we're Souls likes. I know. We do have something wrong with us to enjoy those games.
Mhm.
And then the Hellish Flora says, back when I worked at a coffee shop, people would often come in just to talk at me. Haha. True.
Yeah, that is a very, very common thing. People want to talk. People want to feel like someone is listening to them. It makes me, and it's like people will listen to you for free, but it's like, what do you expect out of it? I feel like that is the most important thing that I always ask my clients whenever they come around. It's like, what do you want? Like, what do you want out of this? Because if you just want to hear and talk at me, that's cool. But do you actually want to get better? Do you actually want to achieve something? Or do you just want to talk at me? Because if you just want to talk at me, there's a lot of people you could talk at for free. I'm here to help you. I'm here to actually see if we can get something done. If your intent is just to talk at people, then you can do that for free. But it's kind of the similar thing, right? You can just talk at your friends for free. They'll try to help, but they'll try to help how they can. If you actually want to fix things, then there's actual, people trained for that.
How are you? Question mark quotations. Well, says the Hellish Flora. Pete says,
Well,
oh,
now that you asked,
yeah, that you
you stepped into
asked.
my trap card.
Actually, I've had that happen at a bar one time, but it's because I don't know if you know part of my lore is I'm part emotional support cat. That's one of my jobs. So I have a human servant who I travel the world with, and wherever he goes, I go because he has a lot of depression and anxiety, and so he has to have an
Mhm.
emotional support cat. It helps him, in his everyday life. So I went to a bar, and I got to observe that exact interaction of human servant being like, "How are you today, sir?" And then he's like, "Well, you asked." Like it just all came out,
Oh, uh,
and then like human servant just like starts petting me, and then moves me to the center so that dude can pet me at the same time.
mm.
And at the end of it, like human servant has no idea what to do with this information. He's like, "Can I buy you another beer?" And then it was like, "We're gonna leave after he finishes." What? Tired Cheeto with the
Chill.
raid. Tired Cheeto. How are you? Do you know Tired Cheeto? Do you know what this
I
is?
do know Tired Cheeto. Tired Cheeto
Really?
is one of the main staples in my community. Also
Well,
Clay's community. In everyone's community. Cheeto is great. He's
well,
amazing.
let me shout out Cheeto so I can take a look at who this. Oh, is he like the Cheeto cat?
Cheesy
Just
person.
like really tired, just in the Cheeto type of attitude. And the
No, no, he
gamer.
actually has a lot of energy. I did not know why he's named Tired Cheeto. He's an energetic fella.
Mm. Well, if he's ever interested in telling his story, I do interview content. If you'd be interested, we could talk.
Mhm.
We could talk offline. They also ate me in the game. Wait, what?
We were playing RimWorld, and let's say that our colony was going for some rough patches,
Mm.
and I do not know how it happened. One moment we had a Cheeto, the next moment we didn't have a Cheeto, and some colonists were fed, so we only assumed one thing happened.
Interesting. Interesting. All right. Well, Cheeto, we are interviewing Jackie's advice. We are a little more than halfway through, but still hang out, get comfortable. You and your community get comfortable. If you have questions, hold your questions for now. We're going to open up for if you guys will have questions later. But yeah, relax, get comfortable. Thank you for bringing your community over. Uh, Very excited to have you.
Mhm.
So, all right. Okay. So since we're on the topic of spreading awareness for mental health, how can streamers and content creators better promote mental health awareness and resources within their communities?
Honestly, by just providing any. It's
Mm,
one of the major gripes I've had with like a lots of like mental health positive or mental health like aware content creators is that they really don't have anything ready to go if someone needs help, and instead they kind of like seem to, which is fine, is understandable. Listen, if someone comes to your chat and they're like, man, I am undone, I'm broken, I need someone to talk to, I need something, a lot of people tend to just go like, I hope you get better, I hope you feel better soon, you're welcome to hang out and chat. And it's like, have a link at the ready, like it doesn't take that much to like look up like health crisis hotlines. It doesn't take that much to look up like proper, like foundations like Trevor. uh, Average Girl Games recently shared one with me called that to write love on her arms, who also have like a live chat situation. Take This is another great org I love. Like have those links at the ready just in case, spread them to your mods or something, and let people know like, hey, here's the link, find the help you need. Or have your mods be like, hey, send me a DM or something, like just make sure you're fine. Like I don't think it's good for you to be here on the stream right now. I do not know if it's gonna help. The person is busy right now, but we can check on you after the stream. Like have these things planned out in case they do happen. Like have a plan at the ready in case it does happen, instead of just kind of like being like, I don't know what to do, I don't know where to go. Like
Flora,
I
if
feel like
you
the best way people can be like that is like that.
Flora, if you DM it to Pete, he can post the link. He's my only mod, so he can post links. Um, okay, so low key, I've been telling people to go see you.
Yeah, that's a
Because I'm
good way
like,
to look at it
I
too.
I
I've,
know somebody. I know somebody who promotes mental health on their channel. This is your streamer because I'm
yeah.
like all before I scheduled the interview. Then once I had it scheduled, like every time I'm like, hey guys, like I'm not really that well equipped, but I have an interview. By the way, you should check out Jackie's
Mhm.
channel because Jackie's more equipped for these type of conversations, type of
Which
thing.
is,
Yeah. But
yeah,
you.
which is what I expect, because here's the thing, there's like other people out there that are like Critical is another one who I love, who has worked as a mental health professional for a long time. There's MEOW, who is also like a psychologist who streams DBD. So
Mhm.
there's like people out there who are like, who work in the field, they have the experience, they're willing and open to help. So it's like, if it's not your wheelhouse, don't be like, again, like I said, you're not a mechanic. If
Mhm.
someone comes with you with a broken car, don't be like, let me see, let me open the hood, let me see what's going on in there. Like, you don't know. Like, don't
Mhm.
force that on you, because that is like stress on you as the streamer, that's stress on your mods, that's stress on your community that you don't know how to do, right? So don't
Yeah.
be afraid of sending them to like proper channels of people who are more than willing to help. And if they're offline, if they're not there, like tell them like, hey, they have communities, they have discords, they have all this sort of stuff, and let them handle it as well. But also don't be afraid to also have, like I said, like crisis help hotlines, like links and stuff,
Hmm.
to like if person needs immediate help as well.
There you go. All right, so I will add this. Pete linked it in the chat, Gatos. If you are looking for help, this comes recommended by Jackie's community, a resource you guys can use.
Hmm.
And I will add this to my clipboard so I can use this in the future, not just send them directly to you. But to write love on
Yeah.
her arms. We all have mental health, but we don't all start with the same skills or support needed to maintain it. Start building your mental health resiliency today through our introductory mental health toolkit. So it's an online website that
Hmm.
provides a toolkit that can help. All right, I am definitely adding this to uh, my clipboard or my notes that I use for stream every time, and I will use this going forward. I will also still send them to you because I'm like, hey, you're here to watch streamers. How about you watch
Yeah.
a streamer that,
Yeah.
that specializes in this? Because I am
Yeah,
no
that's the
good.
thing. I do not mind helping at all. It's just that
Hmm.
unfortunately, life being what it is, I can't be online all the time,
Hmm.
even though I wish I could. So in case that if I'm not online, or if any of these other amazing, mental health work professionals are not online as well, it's
Hmm.
nice to also have like a link just in case to give them something. Like you
Hmm.
never, if someone is having like what do we call like crisis issues,
Crisis,
like where
yep.
they actually need help right at that moment, it's the best thing you can do is just keep them occupied with something, right?
Hmm.
And in case these links can be super super helpful.
Uh, Conceal says, I love the irony of a psychology broadcasting a murder horror game. Hey, it's still entertainment.
Well, it
It's
is a game. Yeah, it's a game still. I
I'm
don't
a
think any psychologist would like play like layers of fear and be like, see kids, you should be drinking your problems away just like in the video game.
All right, Pete says, I'm a streamer who's specializing in being British, not ours. Want a cup of tea? True. We also have Pete teach us English sometimes, because apparently your and mine English is not the same as theirs.
Mm-mm. Very different, so we've heard.
Uh, Beppa wants to know, have you talked much or had much training on talking to autistic adults?
Yeah, actually, quite a lot. A lot of my clients do make part of the autistic spectrum, which is kind of like the thing we need to be mindful whenever we're talking about like talking with autistic adults. Is that autism, much like ADHD, being a very broad spectrum, you're gonna have people who behave and talk in different kind of manners. From being what we call fully functional, which is they could quote unquote mask or pass as neurotypical very easily, all the way to like nonverbal. And when they're nonverbal, communication becomes more difficult, a little bit more strained because we're used to communicating with words. So in that way, you need to learn different ways to approach and talk to people. But yes, I do have a lot of experience more towards the fully functional because of like where, I usually meet clients, which is, in a practice where I usually talk about familial conflicts and ADHD. But yeah, it is a skill I definitely picked up.
Nice. Okay. All right, and then let me close with, what are your thoughts on the stigma surrounding mental health in the gaming world, and how can we overcome it?
Ooh, that's a big one. I feel like the biggest one we can have is just by being more introspective. I feel like in general, when we're talking about like gaming world and gamers, is like I think it's important for us to recognize that at the end of the day, we're just consumers, right? We just consume product. Sure, it is art. It is an interactive medium, but it is just we're just consuming content. So in that sense, I feel like what we need to do is be more mindful of what we consume and why we consume the things that we consume, right? It's like there's nothing wrong with having a want, a need, a desire, a preference. Nothing wrong with that at all. But being mindful as to why we gravitate towards that is really, really important for us to understand ourselves and understand if that behavior is something that's actually like healthy or good for us. It's like, I think I talked about often. It's, like it's really cool to play a PvP game and dominate the other team is really, really cool. You feel good because you're putting into effort all your knowledge, all your skills, and you're being validated by putting that. And that's really, really cool. But the realization of like, okay, but why do you need that? Why do you get that validation by doing that? Why can you not do that in a different way that does not require, to be at times what people would call toxic, right? Similarly, with like the idea of like buying cool skins for your character. Buying cool skins for your character is really cool. It's really nice to have a skin that you like looking at, but the problem is like, okay, but why do you like it? Where is that coming from? Is it worth your actual money? Is it worth your actual time? Is this like a good behavior for you? Is this like why do you like what you like? Being mindful of why you purchase the things you purchase or why you spend the time you spend in the specific way is really important for us to be the best people we can be, you know?
Hmm. Flora says jail.
Jail. Don't jail me,
Um,
please.
because it makes me look pretty sad, says Pete. What?
Well, but
Hmm.
that's the thing. Like, why does it make you look pretty? Like, why do you think it looks pretty? Why does it matter for you to look pretty? Why does it matter for you to look pretty in that specific way and not pretty in a different way? That's what I'm saying. There's nothing wrong with it, but knowing yourself and knowing why you like what you like can help you become a better, more conscionable consumer. Because if you realize, like, hey, I bought all the skins that make my character look like a tough big guy, is probably because I have a secret harboring for wanting to be a tough big guy. And that is something that I've been missing throughout my entire life. And I feel like I could stand up for myself more and be more confident, like the characters I usually play as, could be something to look about. Not saying you should stop buying the skins.
Amen.
You can continue, but these things can actually help you a lot understand yourself.
I am so confused right now because I usually buy the biggest booba skins, but I do not
I mean,
identify
I could talk
as a
about
booba
that, but
girls.
you don't identify as a girl, but you feel a necessity to look at that. So if you feel a necessity
Mm,
to look at that, it might be asking, like, well, why do you need to look at that all the time? Why is that an important thing to have it so prevalent at all times during your enjoyment time? And what does it say that you find enjoyment out of looking at someone else's body, specifically if they look a specific way or look a certain way? Again, you can continue doing what you're doing, but understanding why you do these things can be super helpful in learning more about yourself and in thus putting better, more good, sustainable behaviors to yourself.
secretly, don't we all want to be a himbo, says the hellish Flora?
I do.
Mindfuck, says Pete. People ironically call me a big guy, but only because they think I'm a middle school aged boy, says
Well,
Bubbles.
that's right. It's because Bubble is like a butch lady,
Mm-hmm.
but she's real tiny.
FF14 did make me look at Nekos all the time. Pippa hands now. I like the aesthetics. I don't even know what a Neko is.
It's like a cat girl or cat
Oh.
boy.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we're cats. Everyone wants to be us. We are gorgeous. We are the
Everyone loves
apex.
cats.
Everybody loves cats. So, um, all right. At this time, um, I think Neko is Japanese for cat. Oh, nice to know. This time, let's do. I'm gonna shrink you down, and then we're
Okay.
gonna
Okay.
quickly go uh, through your website, so you can walk us through and tell us about it, and then we'll do questions after that. So let
Hmm.
me get my
Of
cat,
course.
Unreal
I haven't
Cat.
updated my website in forever.
Let me
It's a
shrink.
relic.
Let me shrink down my cat. I gotta move. I'll move here. There we go. All right, there's my playlist. So let me quickly bring up your website. Let me go. I put it on this other clipboard. Um, Okay, so you have two that I looked at, and the first one is JackieComics.com. Can you tell us about this page?
Yeah.
So what are we
So
looking
this
at
is
here?
my page for so this is my page is usually where I have an assortment of all the stuff that I do, which is essentially is as someone with ADHD, I think this is the thing that a lot of people kind of relate to is that when you have ADHD, you have a lot of projects, like a lot of them. So I found that making a website to kind of like have all my projects in one place kind of made sense. So in here, I have both my portfolio as well as my comics, and also links for my Redbubble where I do like little designs and stuff. I also have a link to the Twitch and to Arcade Militia, which is a podcast I have with my best friend where we talk about gay video games.
Interesting. The best gay
Hmm.
takes. Gay road trip. Get in the car,
The
loser.
best.
Nice, nice.
Yes.
So you do dabble a lot. You do a podcast. You do art. You do
Hmm.
therapy, comics.
Yeah.
Wow, wow. And then I got your red bubble in my other tab. Can you tell us about your red bubble?
My Redbubble is just a collection of silly little drawings I've made from my comics, my little like video game comics. I made them into like little stickers and stuff, and that's pretty much it. Not a lot to tell. I mean, it's just that, like I said, with like all these ADHD stuff, it's just like you start a project and you're like, dude, I'm totally gonna put all my time and effort in here, and then you kind of just forget about it. Here we have just the designs I did for the Dark Tide comics and animations I did. Um, and yeah, I enabled them to for people to buy them as stickers.
Mm, nice. And this provides you some residual income. I suspect it helps you a little bit. Probably
A
not
little bit,
much.
and it's not much. Redbubble takes a king's cut. I try to keep it as cheap as possible, and even on the cheapest end, it's like if you buy a shirt for like $10 here, you make like $1 off the shirt. That's like $10. So yeah, they take quite the cut. But yeah, Arcade Militia also has its own website as well, which we still do get like patrons for our podcast as we are currently recording or returned. We have 8 episodes on the slot, and we're gonna start releasing later this year, hopefully.
There you go. All right, so if you guys want to learn all about Jackie, my art, I'll go to the pink area. There you go. So it's a little less bright, more pink
A little
than white.
darker. Yeah.
Little pig. All right, if you guys want to support Jackie, there's her, Jackie's red bubble, as well as I will go Windows button V, and then you guys can also favorite her main page where you can check out her comics. Mild made the comment that he loves your art style, reminds him of The Far Side.
Oh, thank you, Mild.
Um, it's like 30 cents per sticker of mine, says the Hellas Flora. Yeah, I don't think
Yeah.
like merch, like yeah, if they take a king's cut, especially on so low dollar items, like 350 is not much. So that probably gets you like 35 cents or something, you know, like.
It makes me next to nothing, especially
Hmm.
because I set it to the cheapest option. However, knowing that there's people out there with Jackie Comics art in like as a pin or as a shirt, that's already enough to make me that that is makes more money in my heart than 30 cents. It makes me so happy.
Nice, nice. So it's worth it for making you making you smile. Awesome,
Yes.
awesome. All right, Gato. So let me get nice and big again. Sorry for the flashbang. Not every website has an incognito mode, and since this is an incognito browser, I didn't need to figure out if I can add a dark mode. And I moved to the side because I got to bring lurk bait over gatos. All right,
Well, I
imagine
do have
debating what.
someone I want to shout out
Oh,
in
you do.
case anyone, if I can,
Just
if
type it.
I'm not derailing the stream.
No, type it. Type it. That is my community. I am all about supporting other
Yeah.
small communities. Type it in the chat and then I'll use my command.
Well, yeah, mine is less for streamer recommendations, but like if you guys need art, please reach out to Hellish Flora, who's in chat right now. Like if you need emotes, if you need PNG tubers, if you need art, banners, profiles, what have you, please enter in contact with Hellish Flora.
Nice.
It's amazing.
Awesome. I'll still shout out the Hellish Flora. I don't think
Yeah.
Hellish Flora
there you go. As a little froggy.
Yeah, I don't think they have streamed, but you guys can still hit them with a follow because that will give you a way to be connected to that chatter. And they obviously learned enough how to rig a VTuber and then make emotes.
Clearly.
Everyone go show love to Flora. Yeah, Flora's a good peoples. Good peoples.
Let me do like a showcase and just show like the second outfit she made for me. Because it's a beautiful one and I really, really like it.
Oh, I like this boss outfit, but whoa. Now you're like an assassin.
It's supposed to be for my tarot stream.
Oh.
Very mystic. Very mystical.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. And then she learned how to do this. Like within having no background in it. Just was like, all right, I'm going to go do this
No
now.
background whatsoever. She learned how to do this and she did multiple already now, which is really cool.
That's awesome. All right. Cool.
Yeah.
Jackie's creative. Exactly. You do look like an Assassin's Creed character.
Right.
Mystic Jackie. Nice, nice. All right. All right. Let's move into the part of the interview where we have questions from the audience. So, everyone, this is your opportunity to ask this mental health professional, as well as streamer, as well as gamer, as well as Gigawoman, any questions. So, oh, that's right. Ray Dog wants to know, have you ever seen the animation show Dr. Katz?
Yes, I have. And it's one of my favorite animations of all time. It's one of, I think it's a very realistic portrayal of what it's like to be a psychologist most of the time, where a lot of the people that you're currently talking to are people who are I think the most important part that I really like about Dr. Katz is that a lot of his patients who are like, you know, like very like famous patients, so and so, they're aware of their issues, like they're aware of their problems. It's just more of a, you kind of need to know how to break it past like their preconceived notions. I just think like it's a really funny show and I really, really like it. Yeah, it's a great show.
Nice.
I think it's very realistic.
Okay. All right, community members. Any other questions? I'll think of a silly question so they can have some time to type. If you could have a superpower, what would your superpower be?
I'm very boring. I don't like superpowers. I like how I am right now. I'm very boring because superpowers usually begets like a lot of responsibility, right? Or at least that's how I feel about it. Like imagine it's like if I had super strength, right? I couldn't just use super strength to like open jars and do like housework, right? If you have the ability to do something, usually that comes impaired with the responsibility to do something, right? So it's like it's a lot. Sometimes I wish for less power so that way I have less responsibility so that way I can focus more on myself. So I'm going to give a non-answer and say that if I could choose a superpower, I probably would not choose a superpower because I don't want more responsibility.
Nice. Nice.
Yes, I would actively choose to be a normal person because I do not want the responsibility.
Pete wants to know what came first, chicken or the egg?
Probably the egg as a concept. Creatures were having eggs way before chickens became a thing.
Pete says, I wish to have the power of a normal sleep pattern.
That's not a superpower. That is something that is incredibly attainable. You do not need a superpower to get that.
Jackie said it, not me. Jackie is Uncle Pen. It's true.
Jackie's Uncle Ben.
With no power comes no
Yeah, pretty much.
responsibility. True. KFC came
Uh,
first. Now yours. Yeah. All right. If
yeah.
you could travel anywhere, money's not an issue, or PTO or whatever. Where would you go in the? Where would you go?
Hmm.
More questions. Come on,
I would.
gatos.
Yeah. If you guys have any questions like ADHD or psychology related, don't be afraid either. You can use. I think you've linked it, like the forum, if you don't want to put yourself out there as well. But I don't mind answering them. So yeah, ask your psychology therapist questions, stuff. But in the context of traveling, I probably would really, really like to do like a United States like cross country trip and get to know like all of the United States places.
That
Because I feel
would
like a good old Americana trip sounds like a fun time to actually see the United States from like bottom to end.
that would take you significant amount of time. I know Americans who've
Yeah,
spent their entire lives trying to see all of it, and it took them multiple decades to even touch
yeah,
every state within the U.S. So, oh,
yeah. I would imagine so. Which is why I'm like, if money and time is no objection,
yeah,
I
there
think
you
I would
go.
have a fun time doing that.
Mm. Grey Dog says, when you are dining, what is your favorite thing to eat?
Hmm. I am a pig when it comes to food. I eat most anything, and I do not have that much of a discerning palate. However, if I had to choose, one of the foods that I like the most is stroganoff. I would say
Stroganoff.
chicken stroganoff with rice is my favorite. Really, really like it.
Nice. Nice. Chicken stroganoff. Nice. Hmm. Oh, what game do you think you'll play next? Speaking of gaming.
It's a rough question. It's a really rough question. I had a couple of like kind of like lined up that I was thinking about playing. I need to play more Once Human because people have been clamoring for it, and also there's a bet. People were betting that I wasn't gonna play more Once Human, so which means I definitely need to prove them wrong.
Clever says Liza
So I need
P.
to get to that. Liza P. Yes, I need to play Liza P. So I can play it and beat it in one stream in one sitting, just to prove a point. What else? That's the thing. There's not been a lot of like games that have been like really nice for my type of streaming. Is the issue? Because like I said, my type of streaming is very much like background noise for the stuff we talk about, right? And a lot of the games been coming out recently are very like narrative driven or very like focus intensive. So we tend to kind of like lurk the waters with like stuff like RimWorld or like more RPG sort of games. Like Once Human turned out to be a great fit because you're just kind of like doing building stuff or whatever for most of the time. So I'm not entirely sure. We're probably gonna stick with more Once Human just to prove the haters wrong.
Interesting.
Elite
Okay.
Dangerous. Ooh, that sounds great. People would hate watching Elite Dangerous, but I feel like my entirety of my community would absolutely despise Elite Dangerous. But I love that game. We might stream that.
Bubble wants to know, why did the narcissist cross the road?
uh, Polybridge to showcase Jackie's engineering background. Oh, that would actually be really funny, Bubble. But no, Bubble, I do not know why the narcissist crossed the road. Please do tell us.
Yeah, a lot of people have been playing Once Human. I've been on the fence about it.
I think that was my stream title actually, Gato. My stream title was because I had spent a week off streaming, so I'm like, yay, I'm back with updates. Parenthesis, yes, I'm playing Once Human 2. I'm sorry. Just out of the gate apologizing because everyone's playing Once Human.
They thought it was a
It is
boundary.
a fine game.
Why did the narcissist
Oh,
cross the road? They thought
nice.
it was a boundary. Oh, we need boundary
Nice.
crossers.
Nice.
I gotcha. I gotcha.
Um, I
Okay.
think I might enjoy What's Human. It is like, it is such a, like, it didn't wow me and it did not like surprise me, but it's so like, again, for this type of stream that I like doing, I was just like, there's something happening in the background is entertaining enough. There's colors, there's things happening. You have a plan, like you know what you need to do, and it's not like super. It requires tons of focus. You just kind of do it. It is so chill. It is so laid back.
Mild wants to know, have you played Hellblade using an interesting game mechanic of schizophrenic style voices which adds elements to game awareness? Oh man, I was watching him play that and it was making me crazy. Like
Yeah.
hearing those voices.
Yeah. Everyone told me that I should play Hellblade and Hellblade 2, and it's on the list. Honestly, I definitely need to play that. Hey, look at that!
Boom! Boom! The cat is here. Let me shout you out. Boom. The legend
Hello,
is
Boom.
here. The legend.
Like, look at me. My rotundity. Look at
Look at
my
the
sheer
rotundity.
volume of roundness.
Look at this awesome cat. So, gatos and creatures, critters. If you not have hung out with Boom, you should. Boom is an incredible streamer with incredible content, and they are one of the most talented UE devs that I know. You can go to their stream and just experience chaos in all its glory.
Bitch!
You can spawn in as a cat. You can type, look, a white van, and slam a white van into Boom. You can have pizza show up just by typing pizza. There's so many interactivities that are in Boom's channel that you just have to go and lurk and learn, and then you can embrace the chaos. Also, Boom has a slapping playlist. I always enjoy the music in Boom's channel. And I also want to make a note that Boom is a commissionable dev and streamer. I, with 100% customer satisfaction, have commissioned Boom before. In fact, if you guys type less than 3 or binoculars, you can see the blend shapes that Boom put on my cat. So I'm doing less than 3, which will make, the heart emote. Super awesome music, yeah. So. Oh, I guess my Twitch works is broken at the moment. I'll have to figure that out. Usually that works. But yes, Boom has done work for me on my project, and I've always enjoyed it. It's not working. Yeah, I'm not sure why. I think maybe my Twitch works is down. But I have 100% enjoyed all the commission work Boom has done for me. Also, Boom has provided me support after the fact, whereas I have taken other commissions from other artists, and they just deliver it to you, and then it's like you don't exist after that. Like once they delivered, check is paid, you're dead to them. So if you guys are looking for commissionable work, hang out with Boom. Also, if you are looking for a model, but you are not, like you would like to have a 3D VTuber, and this goes for you too, Jackie, Boom could make you one. And I
Ooh.
have a philanthropist in the channel right now. His name is TTC Beppo. TTC Beppo would like people to experience, Boom services and understands that people are financially strapped. He's not looking for any, commendations, any type of recognition, but we give him recognition anyways, because Beppo, Oxtooth, is willing to fund those efforts, and it helps feed Boom. So, yes, follow Oxtooth, that is TTC Beppo, that is his alt channel. He streams, he builds computers as like a hobby. Like he'll buy used parts out of eBay for like several $100 and make a really badass computer. Then he'll just give it away to a streamer that he knows is having computer issues. Like he is a pillar within
Oh, what a
my
cool guy.
community. Yeah, and between him and Boom, you could have your own 3D VTuber like me. So, all right, there you go. Anybody else in the shadow train? But yes, thank you, Raiders. Boom, thank you for coming over here. Beppa will pay me to make a model for anyone. I just ask that you have a character art sheet reference. Exactly, exactly. Like Jackie, if you want a 3D model of exactly what you're looking at right now with your 2D version, you could provide that to Boom, and you could have a 3D version, and we could make you Unreal Engine. Although I will say, Unreal
Hey.
Engine is porky. It is not potato friendly. You generally need a good rig, but it's still an option. It's still an option. You could get a VRM and use that in um
It's funny because I
Vroid
was talking to
Studio.
Flora about how much I wanted a 3D model, but I wanted
Mhm.
one that was like PS1 style, like polygonal, like drawn shadows on the texture, like as rough as possible because I thought it would be really funny. So
Oh,
maybe my rig could run that one.
I have a low poly model. I have a low poly cat. Like, uh,
Yeah, I think those are cute.
PS1 jacket would be cool. Yeah, see? These are different ideas you could get done
Hmm.
with Boom. So follow Boom and talk those ideas with Boom. Awesome.
I might.
All right, anybody
Thank you,
else in the
Boom, for the raid.
Yeah, thank you so much for the raid, Boom. We are just
Yeah.
wrapping up this interview. By the way, Raiders, Jackie is a mental health professional whose channel is geared towards helping gamers find resources for mental health. Jackie also has a Pete, if you would link it again, if you want mental health advice but don't want to put yourself out there and would like to ask a question and ask it anonymously, Jackie has a Google form that you could submit anonymously and get some answers. There it goes. Thank you, Pete, for linking that. I really have enjoyed asking and learning with Jackie about, mental health. I do feel like we as gamers tend to have some degenerative ADHD-like behaviors. Some of us actually have ADHD. Some of us have undiagnosed ADHD, and some of us have tendencies, some of the bad tendencies, but we might not be ADHD. We just have those same things. And I
Right.
think there's actionable things we can do to live healthier and happier lives. And it's okay to ask for help from a mental health professional. And that is Jackie. You can, get a little bit of help from Jackie, but Jackie most likely will point you to some really good resources to find locally and get help you need. And
Yes.
I think that's 100% part of it. And also understand it's not a one and done deal. Like, this is going to be a lifelong battle of, you know, educating yourself, learning tools, adapting, changing things. And I think it's a great message. So hang out with Jackie. I've got Jackie's channel pinned. She's also in the title. You can follow. Uh, what incredible. All right, now that we have Raiders, I want to keep it open. Do we have any other questions for this streamer? Do we have
Yeah.
any other
If you guys
questions?
have any questions related to psychology, therapy, ADHD, autism, anything related to those lines, please feel free to ask. It's one of my favorite things to talk about. Or if you have any personal questions, that's fine too. Or how it relates to Twitch, all that sort of stuff. I feel like it's one of the main things I always like to talk about is like people take like mental health so seriously, and you really don't have to, right? I feel like people forget. Like people take mental health seriously because the only time people talk about mental health is when they're in a crisis state. That is the only time people ever talk about mental health. They're only talking about mental health when they're down in the dumps and they're like literally in the lowest point in their lives is when people talk about mental health. But realistically, we should be talking about mental health all the time. And thus, mental health should not be a thing that's serious or like holy or like, like this super, oh, we need to put on, we need to put our suit and tie and we need to like sit down like proper, gentle people and talk of like, because that just makes it less likely that we'll even talk about mental health in the first place, right? Like, recognize, like, of course, like I said, we all have, as you put it, degen hours and we have bad behaviors and we can choose to try to change some of those bad behaviors into some like positive behaviors for sure.
Do you ever charge for sessions that go live on Twitch? Asks Allred.
No, actually, what we do on Twitch is not therapy at all. I would call them therapeutic. Therapy requires you to have a professional person to oversee it in a way that is like, agreed upon by all participants, but also with the clear understanding that A, it is therapy, B, you are getting help you need. In the context of Twitch, I cannot really offer either or, especially when it comes to consistency, which is one of the key ingredients with therapy, is that you need to have consistent therapy. And that's pretty much impossible with Twitch. So it is not really therapy. So I really don't charge for it. Of course, if anyone wants to support the channel, it goes a long way because, I still have a practice to run. I still have tons of things that require a lot of money to keep going. But yeah, like we don't really do actual therapy when it comes to Twitch. We essentially, the way I like to put it is that I'm there to get the foot in the door, give advice where possible, give people the where to find like a good therapist for you, how to find a good therapist for you, give advice, give things to think about, give pathways to you for you to be introspective. But that's pretty much it.
Yep. Hellish Flora asks, for streamers out there, what steps should they specifically be taking to take care of their mental health?
Separating your workflow with your real life is really, really important. I think having an understanding that your stream will be there when you go back to it is also really, really important. Having an understanding that you're building a community, and to build a community, that is a slow moving process. You cannot expect a boom of growth in this sort of platform. There is no like boom, now you're famous. Like that doesn't happen. You need to have like a slow and steady pace to build a good community that will be there for you for the long period of time, which means that your work is also needs to be slow and progressive and steady. I think a lot of streamers get caught up in the idea that they need to do everything at once as quick as possible. And that definitely makes it much more difficult on their own mental health, because they're like, oh, I need to get everything done. I need to get everything squared away. I need to do this project and finish this overlay and finish these emotes and finish this and this and that and that. You can have a schedule where you complete these things slowly. People who seem to find good luck and good tidings in these sorts of platforms are people who are here for the long haul, who are here for like the really long projects. So keep your projects close to your sleeve, but understand that like you do not need to explode yourself in a burst of like energy in like a month trying to complete all of this, because you also have a life outside of streaming that you need to take care of, and you also have yourself to take care of, which means that you not going to be able to do any of this sort of work without taking care of you first.
Yep. And I'm going to piggyback on there and say another thing you can do is have a consistent schedule. Like you need to, like Jackie's saying, schedule is very important because it allows you to find a healthy balance. Like on my channel, like I had to look like, hey, you have a 40-hour week of job. You can't do like 60 hours of streaming. You will kill yourself. So I had to sit down and come to be like, okay, the max you want is 20. So 20 hours, how do you want to do it? Then I decided on 3 days because that was going to be what was optimum to still be able to have, get out there with Human Servant, allow him to try to meet other, humans, maybe even a lady, and be consistent. It helps with the community as well, as if they know exactly when they're going to see you and they consistently see you at those time and dates. It's like catching their favorite TV show. Like they will, come home and be like, it's Thursday night, it is Gato stream time, and then go hang out with you. So I think that's something you can do. Consistent schedule. I'm trying to have a schedule, says Pete. Exactly. I think that's something you need to work on, Pete. As a part of the reason I got a smartwatch is to monitor my heart rate and blood pressure. Yep, that also helps with that. What are your regular days, Jackie? Says the Hellas Flora.
What are my regular days for streaming? I feel like that's the important thing too, right? It's like especially if you have ADHD and you're struggling with it, like make sure you're putting yourself like aim for the moon, like is the thing. Aim for the moon. Do not aim for the stars, because that way, like when you hit the moon, you won't feel like sad that you didn't get to the stars.
Mhm.
Because otherwise, what ends up happening is that people will be like, okay, I'll have a 4-day streaming schedule where I'll stream for 4 days. And then you can only stream for 3 days because on the fourth, you're really tired or something comes up and you're like, man, I failed. I fucked up. I had a schedule and I couldn't keep it up. I am a mess.
Mhm.
So instead of doing that, start with I'll have a 2-day schedule. If I stream one more, that's a bonus. Now all of a sudden, your 3-day that you managed to do is actually you going above and beyond what you set out to do. So remember, start small. Like again, there's no reason to jump in the pool when it comes to making your own schedules or anything in that nature. Start small. Don't be afraid of like slowly getting into it.
Mhm. All right, let me scroll up and catch up on some of the questions. Lil Hollow says, thoughts on what's thoughts on because ADHD mind is active as it is, that stuff lies hypersensitivity could be part of it, such as light sensitivity or nerves going on overdrive making chronic pain. Wait, let me paste this because I think I butchered that. I'll paste it in. Take a gander, Jackie, because I don't think I read that right. Uh,
Okay. Oh, I think I understand. What are your thoughts on ADHD mind being as active as it is? That stuff like hypersensitivity could be part of it. Things like light sensitivity or nerves going on overdrive causing chronic pain. So the idea that ADHD could make like things like hypersensitivity of like nerve pain or light pain, can be made worse because of ADHD. There is little to connect the two. Not saying that there is a connection, but more that the hyperactivity that we associate with ADHD comes more from what we call behavioral rather than physiological. That being that because ADHD, what it does is, make us have less dopamine intake. It means that we're moving more, we're thinking more, we're doing more. Now, however, even though physiologically we don't see a lot of like linkage between ADHD making your mind more active and you having more chronic pain from nerves or light sensitivity, I feel like you're still, because of ADHD, you can be put in positions where you feel that as a more acutely. So it's like it's not that ADHD is making your nerve pain worse, is more that because of ADHD, if you don't have anything to do or to keep yourself occupied or to keep yourself like focused, of course you're gonna be like very focused on the pain, or light sensitivity is going to really be shitty. So it's not necessarily that ADHD makes it worse, but rather that the behaviors that ADHD causes you to have will make those things worse, which is like kind of like a weird way to put it because like it's very roundabout, but we always have to be very mindful of cause and effect because that tells us that even if you have ADHD, if you just endanger bad behaviors, those bad behaviors will make any pre-existing condition you have worse, you know?
okay, and then I did want to catch up because Bubbles asked a really good question. Um, do you have, do you also have experience dealing with patients that have issues relating to LGBTQI plus?
Oh yeah, tons, 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 tons. That is my bread and butter. I would say most of my clients are part of the queer spectrum, and I see a lot of overlap between people who have ADHD and people who are queer, in the sense that a lot of the issues that you face when you're queer are issues that you also face when you have ADHD. The inability of like father figures, mother figures, authority figures in general to be able to understand how your brain functions or how you work or how things function is a shared experience between people who are neurodivergent and people who are queer. The idea that you have to explain to someone that like, hey, my brain just does not function the way you expect it to, and that is fine, is an issue that turns up becoming the same sort of problem. It has the same sort of rooting that you would expect from both people who are queer and people who have ADHD, where you have to explain how you are to people who oftentimes can be very, very non understanding. like essentially the trauma that it causes is of the same flavor, is of the same kind of vein, where you have like trying to explain to people like, hey, I am not lazy, I just can't do this right now. There's no reason. I don't have a physical reason to you as to why I cannot do this right now. I just feel like I can't. Sounds as weird to some people as saying, I just can't get married. I just can't date this person. I just can't be the, the daughter or the son you expect me to be. Like it hits the same and it creates the same generational and family trauma. So I find that those types of issues are very, very closely linked together.
Very nice. The Clavia asks, coming from someone that's super scattered brain, what steps do you recommend to slow down and calm my mind?
There's a couple. So there's some exercises that can really, really help you. One of the exercises that I really like is called the 5-4-1 grounding exercise. And like these grounding exercises can be like super, super useful. I'm gonna pull up here the sheet, but essentially there's like these coping slash what we call them worksheets are like pre-made exercises that have been like tested and trained and everything. And the 5-4-1-3, the 5-4-3-2-1 exercise is one of the grounding exercises where you start first. Number one, you take a deep breath and you look around you. You look around for things in your room, like it can be anything, and you identify 5 things that you can see. So you look around and you take 5 things that I can see. In my case, I'm like, I can see a pen, I can see a control, I can see a bottle, I can see a keyboard, I can see a mouse. You see them, you acknowledge them, you recognize where they are. And then 4, you identify 4 things that you can touch, 4 things that you can place your finger. And it's okay if these repeats. It can be like I can put my fingers on my keyboard, I can put the fingers on my screen. And then for 3, you go, I named 3 things I can hear. So you're like, there's 3 things that I can hear right now. I can hear my computer, I can hear my own voice, I can hear my fan kind of spinning. And then 2, you name 2 things you can smell. I can smell, my own cologne. I can smell the smell of plastic coming from my microphone. And then 1, you can identify a thing you can taste. And I'm like, I have a lingering taste from the water I was drinking. I was drinking carbonated water that had a specific taste, and that's what I got. So like you do these things, so you go like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And by the time you finish the last one, you notice that you're grounded. You're like, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm doing. Okay, I feel like I've been pulled back to where I am at. And that usually helps me a ton. If you need something that's a bit more quicker and practical, I would also recommend that recognizing that you're being scatterbrained is super helpful at too. Like if you can just be like, dude, I'm being so scatterbrained right now. Stop everything, refocus. What do I need to do? What do I actually need to do to get to my point? Being cognizant is king. Being aware where you are and what you're doing is the most important thing always.
Very nice. Very nice. All right. I also do. There's one thing I do. The square breathing that helps me. I have to. Again, I work
Right.
with a human servant that has anxiety and depression. But when he's going through like that high anxiety, I have to work with him to do the square breathing exercise. So I just put it in the chat. It's basically just focusing on your breathing. Even the Marines do this because they get into really intense situations, combat situations, and it's hard to stay calm and focused.
Right.
So they do this exercise, and it helps them reset their brain so they can focus on the mission. And I put it in the chat. It's just
box breathing.
yeah, box breathing. It's just simple. It's just visualizing and breathing in a controlled pattern and doing that repeatedly 4 to 5 times will just reset your brain. Like I shit you not, it resets your brain. So there's a good exercise for you. All right. Mild Bannard says I try yoga and sometimes massage therapy. Oh. Nice.
Mhm. Yoga
Clavia
is really
says,
good. I think it's important for us to understand like when your brain is overthinking, your brain is overthinking. It is not making sense. It is not being logical. And things like box breathing, yoga, grounding exercise is the equivalent of just slapping your brain in the face and being like, get a hold of yourself. Like,
mhm,
focus. Like, what are you actually doing? And then your brain can be like, oh, right. Yeah, this doesn't help anything. This actually is not accomplishing anything. Right. Let's get back on task.
yep. All right, GeoFracture has a question. What can business managers do to make a workspace better for ADHD slash autistic people?
And the better thing you can do is not expect them to have things memorized to the T. It's better if they understand something instead of having them memorized. The second one is make sure that meetings are purposeful and actually useful to have a meeting. People with ADHD have a lot of difficulty. Oh, hey, look at that.
Extra
I'll let you greet the Raiders.
pip!
We were
Raiders
just talking about them.
holders! We were talking about him. We just shouted out Pip because he always puts a lurker in my chat with his chatterino. But I will shout out again the IRL streamer Extra Pip.
He doesn't like humans.
He doesn't like
Because he's
humans?
British. Ah, that makes sense.
Because he's British? Wait, what? British people don't like humans? Welcome, Raiders. Extra small raid. How are you, Pip? We are interviewing Jackie's Comics, also known as Jackie's Advice, here on Twitch. Jackie is
Hello.
a mental health professional. Pip has been on my show as a interview guest multiple times, and we've even done collab gaming content. Which, by the way, Jackie, if you want to do collab gaming in the future, don't
Yeah.
hesitate. Just reach out. I'd be glad to play with you. Um, so yes, Pip and the extra small raiders and the holders. If you have questions, that's what we're just doing right now. We're just taking questions from our audience. If you have questions about mental health and ADHD, because that is what Jackie specializes in, is ADHD, therapy, because it's hard for a lot of ADHD to, people to integrate and work and be around and have family with neurotypical people because they don't understand. And I will say, like, they don't.
Mhm.
They don't understand how your guys' brains work, what are the things to do, what can be done to help. So it's been an incredible learning exercise, just having questions with Jackie. So if you guys, Raiders, have questions, please put them here in the chat. We would gladly answer your questions. So let me see if we missed any other ones before the raid came in.
Yeah, I was in the middle of answering a question here
Oh,
by
that's right. Recap it. Recap it
GeoFracture.
for the
GeoFracture.
Raiders. Yeah.
Yes.
I believe
So,
the question was, what can managers do, or people that like manage people, do to better support, their teams, the people underneath them that have ADHD? What can they do? So,
right. So I was saying like the first thing is like don't expect them to have anything memorized. Like I think like one of the major things that people with ADHD have trouble with is memorizing. So like in the sense of like if you tell them something, right? You said something. Don't expect them to memorize the thing that was said. I feel like this is pretty common with people who are neurotypical, but then you turn that an issue with people with ADHD where it's just like, oh wait, I told you this 2 weeks ago. How did you not commit this to memory? It's because when you have ADHD, committing things to memory is really hard because you have a billion things going through your brain at the same time. If something is important enough to warrant you bringing it up later, make sure to get it in writing, make sure to get it on an email, and make sure to, again, be honest and open about how important a thing is or not. The second thing was about meetings, because meetings is also really, really hard for people with ADHD, especially because having a long attention span is really, really difficult. If a meeting can be avoided and be an email, that benefits people with ADHD quite a bit because they can re-go to the email, they can read it again, they can read through the email again, everything that is needed. versus a meeting that we know those can stretch out for long hours. They can like derail. They can like start talking about something that the person that's there might not even have anything to do with. And Flora brings like some good points too in regards of like having like really good like clear communication and clear dates. A lot of managers do the thing where they're like, we need you to get this done by this weekend, when they actually need the thing done by next weekend. You just say this weekend because you want it now. And for someone who has ADHD, who doesn't understand, might be very overworked, very stressed, very overburned. And the opposite happens as well, where you can be like, oh, we need this thing by 2 weeks, but you actually wanted it done as quickly as possible. But you're like, 2 weeks is the last call. For someone who has ADHD, they need to be told that. They need to be told, like, oh, 2 weeks is the last call, but we need it this week. Like, again, being straightforward, clear, and concise, but also explaining exactly what is important and what isn't is super important with people who have both ADHD as well as autism. So, again, you're never going to go wrong with
Hey,
over
Coach.
explaining and being concise and truthful with what you're saying.
All right, I'll shout both Koji and Cat Dude out a little bit later, which is kind of funny because we have so many people who have flat out said they have ADHD in the chat. Box TV has ADHD, and he says, I carry a notepad and pen with me. It helps me a lot. Koji has ADHD, and we talked about it during our interview. Let's see here. If you have something, put it in an email so they have something to refer back to. Absolutely. Have clear expectation and clear dates when things are due, I think really helps. Absolutely, absolutely. What do you mean procrastination is the mother of all motivations for me, says Clever. Cats, I'll get my ADHD diagnosis next week, surely. One's in the chat if you have ADHD, go for it. Go for it. One's if you're diagnosed. 2 if you don't.
2 if you're
3
not sure.
if you're undiagnosed or you suspect you have it or some type of attention deficit. 2.5. There's no way you don't, Koji. You hyperfixate. Which I will say, hyperfixating is like almost like a superpower, in my opinion. Because like
it is. I do not like. I hold an opinion that I think most people or most therapists would agree with me as well. Is that I feel like people who have ADHD are much better prepared at dealing with the world as it is right now. The only problem we have is that the world and the workspace and the kind of like realities we live in are mostly catered towards people who are neurotypical, people who are not ADHD. But if you have ADHD, you can consume a billion times more content. You can create a billion times more content. Why do you think that most content creators have ADHD? Is because you can do a billion projects at once. You can talk with a billion people at once. You can have so many things happening at once. Your mind is like making plans for the plans in case the plan fail. And then if the plan fail, you already have a backup for the plan. Having ADHD is great. It's just that we're still stuck in a lot of like very, very old, antiquated sort of like, systems and ideologies that make it really, really difficult for us to have like ADHD and live off comfortably. But it's almost like we live in this problematic kind of like society where our ADHD is praised when we get to make content that people benefit off of it. But then you are shamed when that same ADHD that does all these cool things does not really fit into the pattern that people expect you from.
yeah, you guys are flexing your ADHD in the chat. Clever says, sorry, Flora got distracted and started solving service and 24 questions, also won. Box TV says, I have 6 streams open, doing chores, playing an instrument, and reading Wikipedia right now. I have some strong suspicion. And then Koji says, a lot of things IRL aren't structured to give instant feedback, but most games and media are. True. And then I saw a question. I gotta find it really quickly. Oh, Bubbles had another question, but I did want to talk about hyperfixation because, like, we have a favorite creator within the Gato community, and that's Code Migo, and she is unapologetically, publicly open about her ADHD. And it just seems like
Hmm.
amazing that she'll like code this incredible map in game within her world in just like a day, just like a day hyper fixating on it. And then we get to experience this awesomeness, and then like, and then it's over. My favorite stack. Yeah,
Yep, yep.
she's incredible. But Bubbles asks, do you think we'll ever have an ADHD mental health coded TTRPG?
Well, that would be a fun thing to do, wouldn't it? I would
Maybe, maybe. And
I
then
would appreciate it.
Laney says, so you mean BG3? I mean, BG3 does support ADHD because you can go as fast as you can, you can click buttons and do things, but you can also, I also appreciated the BG3 was, turn-based in the sense that you could go as slow as you want. I thought it was very nice as a streamer because you could just focus on chat and stall the game. I really enjoyed that
That is true.
gameplay.
Yeah.
Cat Dude says, my hyperfixation always drove my late mom bonkers. She was always demanding I learn multitask, and I couldn't do that because I would never get anything finished. Yep. It's
Mhm.
distracting friendly, says Lainey. Yep. Um,
Again, I feel like what the cat dude here is experiencing is a thing that I talk a lot with a lot of my patients is what I was just talking here now of like people praise the ADHD symptoms when it's in their favor and then they shame them when it's not in their favor. Your hyperfixation um, is really good and made you like a better person. You probably learned a lot. You probably figure out a lot of things. You probably learn a lot of passions and learn a lot of things you wouldn't have otherwise. But it's like people want you to hyperfixate on the things they want you to hyperfixate is the issue. And that's
mhm.
like that when you start like grinding, like the problems of like living in a neurotypical society is that for people who are neurotypical, it's pretty easy for them to go like, oh yeah, right, I'll just go do something else. Or right, I'll just, yeah, you're right, I shouldn't be doing this. I'll just do something else, which is not something that is achievable if you have ADHD. It's like you can't force yourself, but you're not going to learn anything. It's not going to be anything you actually like put your mind to. So, yeah.
Hmm. Interesting. Hmm. Yeah, we'll say, yeah, a lot of people are ill-equipped. It could also, it doesn't even have to be just ADHD. Like, ideal again as an emotional support cat, like anxiety and depression. People that don't have it don't have the tools to even understand it. Or like,
Right.
you can see somebody in a depressive rut and then them just be like, get over it. Like, what's your problem? Just get over it. Like, that doesn't help. Like, just beating the person down doesn't like magically fix them. It's their brain chemistry. It's not there's a magic cheat code to undo it, you know? Um,
Exactly. And that's the thing that's the most hard to like kind of explain is because a lot of this stuff usually has so much nuance related to it, right? It's
mhm,
like, can you teach someone that has ADHD to not have ADHD? Not really, but you can give them some better behaviors that can help them cope with it, you know?
mhm. Or tools, yep. And medications, yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
But then it's like trying to explain that to someone is really hard. Trying to
Mhm,
explain to someone like, listen, which I've done a lot with clients, like, hey, your son has like really bad ADHD. And they're like, well, can you fix it? And it's like, well, I can't fix it, but there are certain behaviors we can do that we can, or certain exercises, certain sort of treatments we can do that can minimize the effect that ADHD will have on their growing and learning process. So much so that there's so many people out there that have ADHD who don't even know they have ADHD because they had very healthy mechanisms and healthy behaviors like supporting family, supporting, lifestyle that actually help them cope with their ADHD issues enough that they have really, really good, healthy behaviors to deal with it. And they don't even know they have ADHD. So, like, it is possible. But then you try to explain that to some people who are like more close minded or a little bit older. And they're just like, oh, so you're telling me that if we go hard enough at it, that we instill enough discipline, that this ADHD thing is not even going to matter. And it's like, kind of, but not really. There's a way to go about it. There's like a methodology to it. It's not just it's not just force the person into it and it'll be fixed, right? It's complicated. Like I said, there's a lot of nuance to it.
Oh, Bubbles hit on a really common place, especially with the older religious generations. Um, you know, Bubbles type, little me, I feel sad. My parents just pray. Like they are of the mind that you can pray away the gay, the mental disorders, the unhealth. Like I've even heard of some cases of like pray away the cancer. Um, that's very dangerous in my opinion. Um, all right. Box TV says I have an immense amount of useless skills I've accumulated. There are also things I procrastinate learning for years, says Box.
Yeah. That's the thing too. Like, I feel like a lot of people with ADHD will learn a bunch of things because, like I said, we have a trillion, a quadrillion like projects going on at the same time and learning a bunch of things and all this sort of stuff. And, like all of that is really, really good because here's the thing. There is no such thing as wasted time in our lifetime, right? We cannot have wasted lifetime because everything that we learn and everything that we live kind of paints our lives and paints how we see the world, right? So the skills you have right now, as useless as they might seem, they have been the bed that which you lie. They have made you who you are, and they've kind of like informed the person you are. So like it's always going to be a positive thing to learn and to know yourself. It is, like I was talking about, I started my career as an engineer, and I can't just sit here and say like, oh, that was a waste of time, that was pointless because I don't use any engineering in my work field. And it's like, yes and no. I mean, the experiences I had in college and experiences I had at my previous job and experiences of even going there definitely, painted who I am today. And everything you have done so far is kind of the same.
Yep. All right. The praying. Got so many comments. Oh dear. Can I pray away the diabetes? I don't think it works like that, Pete. Did we just made the comment?
Does not, unfortunately.
Depends how much you donate. No, that doesn't work either. You can pray away everything, but it's important to have a fully automatic machine gun in your garage for some reason to protect your property. Apparently, yes, indeed, News. Extra Pip has been to my house and seen endless. You have ADHD too, McGurk? Damn. It's also potentially heretical if it goes into a plane of magical thinking that most scriptures actually discourage. True, the cat dude. And I will shout you out.
That is true.
My room is filled with abandoned projects. I've lost all motivation.
Yeah. I think a good way to think about it that way is that you do not have abandoned projects, right? You have projects that you finished working on. Like you're done with the project. The project wasn't abandoned. You're just kind of done. You took what you needed from it. You did what you wanted from it, and you got the return from all the effort you put into it. And you're not really willing or have the energy to work on it anymore, and that's fine. It's okay.
All right.
I think it's important to realize that for a lot of projects we have, like we are the only people keeping track of it, right? Like we are the bosses. We are keeping track of these projects. And of course, we have expectations of where we want these projects to be at. Like we have expectations of where we want these projects to finish at, where we want it to land. The problem being is that, of course, our brain and our body are not necessarily in sync, right? So you have these ideas of like, oh, I want to finish this. I want to do this. I want to get this done. I want to get that done. But like, can your body actually follow that up? And this is where the frustration lies. The frustration lies in the fact that you can't really do that, right? You can't really get that sort of stuff done because your body will not comply to it. If you think about it this way, the amount of projects you start and never end could easily be triple the amount of work that someone who actually done a project and finished it. Like you've done a lot of work. You've done a lot of like running around. It's unfocused. it's not really focused anywhere. So it's not like you're lazy. You're doing a lot of work. You're putting in a lot of effort. It's just more of a matter of you don't really have it in you to do it. And most of that, if you do have ADHD, is a physiological problem. The reason you don't have the focus to finish it is because your brain can't capture enough dopamine to feel satisfied or to feel validated that your project is coming along the way you wanted it to be. So realistically, what I'm trying to say here is that don't misinterpret the fact that you can't finish projects as you being a bad person or you being lesser. It is a physiological issue. You do have ADHD or if you're neurodivergent, that you can't just really finish all this sort of stuff like off the cuff. Because here's a newsflash: nobody really can. Not really. For people who are neurotypical, the stuff that you do in like a couple of weeks would take them like months. You know, and like for people who are neurodivergent, you don't know what they're going through. They might finish their project, but they might be like, oh, this is only one part of a huge project and I haven't finished that and I feel awful about it. So here's the thing: don't think about the projects you left on the table as something like, I'm a failure. Think about it like I aimed too high. So for my next project, let's aim a little bit lower. Let's start smaller. So that way finishing it is easier and quicker.
Hmm. That sounds pretty good. Like, I could envision somebody being like, I'm going to solve a Rubik's Cube as a project and not do it.
Yeah.
But you got the entertainment out of the Rubik's Cube, which it's designed to be a toy. And it's okay to shelve it in its unfinished form and consider it done, considering that task done because you've got the chemicals you're looking for. It's a different way of thinking about it, for sure. Uh,
Mhm.
McGurk has a few comments. The Adderall helps me, but wears off too quick. I think I have a lot of bad habits that don't help, and then I feel overwhelmed and can't get my body to work on it. I've looked into
Yes, I
testosterone.
have things
I looked
to
into
say about
testosterone,
that.
and it seems a little low. I started taking medicine and getting it up naturally, hoping it helps with the motivation and the energy. All right, but it seems like Jackie has some other ideas. Go, Jackie, go.
I have a lot of things to talk about that. First of all, Adderall is great. I like Adderall, but Adderall is made for short bursts. For ADHD, there's tons of medicine that can help you. Ritalin is much more longer lasting. There is a specific type of Ritalin, which is a long release Ritalin, which will release the same amount of Ritalin, but for very slow amounts throughout the day. Some people really like it. Some people have really bad time with it because they're like, it doesn't feel like it does anything because I need more. Like, and that's the thing. There's so many medicines out there. You need to find the one that works for you. So don't be afraid of talking to a psychiatrist and being like, hey, I'm trying Adderall, but for the amount of time I need to work and focus on, Adderall feels like it's a really quick short burst and it's not helping me get throughout my whole day. And it can be like, I don't want to take more Adderall. Is there like a different medicine I can take? Because all these medicines will have different amounts of time that they'll work. Concerta works at a much smaller pace. So Concerta is even more focused than Adderall. And then you have Ritalin, which is a little bit longer. And then you have Vyvanse, which is very long. And then, of course, you can like dose them differently. So you take two of them a day at a smaller dosage. You have long release forms. So there's tons of medicine. You should not be afraid of talking with your doctor and being like, is there an alternative? Now, that being said, if you have a lot of bad habits, there's no amount of medicine that's going to fix your bad habits. In which case, therapy is usually the way to go. Therapy is how you fix bad habits. So you can take as much medicine as you want. If you're still doing the stuff that's bad for your body, therapy is going to be the way to like actually stop doing that, because you can continue to do things that are bad for you, or you can do things that are bad for you but more focused, which doesn't help. So taking the medicine and doing the therapy is the way to go. As far as like testosterone giving you more motivation and energy, testosterone does not give motivation. Testosterone does give energy, but you're gonna need to look at if is what you're missing is energy. Because a lot of the times, at least for ADHD, you don't lack the energy, you just lack the drive. Like you have the energy is being made, you're just lacking a little bit of that impulse to do things, which in turn comes from the brain chemicals. In which case is also important too. talk to your doctor about your testosterone levels. Never like look at yourself because those numbers can be very, very misleading. Your testosterone levels can only be low in relation to your own levels of testosterone. Don't be the first to jump into the fallacy of looking at a list online and being like, oh, my testosterone levels are low compared to this list I've seen online, because the average is the average, and you may as well be very far from the average. And treating yourself like the average will always be a very dangerous thing to do medically. So don't be afraid of talking to a proper endocrinologist or nutritionist to, or even a GP, like a general practitioner, to actually look over your whole list and see what you're going through.
Mm. Yep. Yeah. Alright. If you have a question that you're not sure will be toss friendly, obviously the Google forum is a great place to put it. And it can also be put
Mm-hmm.
in anonymously, and Jackie can read it and respond accordingly. Um, all right. Box TV had a question that I wanted to get to. I convincingly tricked myself into thinking that I might be managing my ADHD well enough. How do I go about changing direction to get diagnosis, help, and maybe medication?
The best way to go about it is to have a doctor you trust. If you have like a family doctor or something of that nature, someone you feel comfortable with, maybe a doctor you've been going to for some time, like a physician, just a general practitioner, a doctor you go to. Endocrinologists are also really good. Nutritionists, any doctor you've been going to for a while, and asking them like, hey, I've been talking with a lot of people that have ADHD. I've been noticing that I have a lot of the very similar behaviors. I noticed it's affecting my life in quite a negative way. And like, I don't want to self diagnose. I don't want to like self medicate or anything. How do I go about it? With the understanding that like each country has like very different systems into how they deal with like actually getting a proper diagnosis and getting to properly medicate. Don't be afraid of like actually talking to a doctor and being like, hey, I think I got this. What are the proper channels for me to go to? And again, when it comes to like fixing like your own health, be it mental health or actually like your physiological health, you have to be a little bit annoying. You have to be a little bit like kind of a Karen a little bit, because it is your health we're talking about. So ask away, ask a lot, ask until you don't have any doubts. Don't be afraid of overstaying your welcome with the doctor. They literally cannot kick you out of their office unless you're being rowdy. So stay there for as long as you need to get all your questions answered and be like, hey, who do I call? Where do I go? What are the proper things I need to go and do? With always, the most important thing you always need to be mindful of are two things. Number one, doctors are just people. If you go to a doctor and they don't seem like they're cool, maybe don't do this with them. Like, they're not gonna be, if they're not cool with you at the get go, they're not gonna be cool with you later. So don't put time and effort into trying to explain your situation to them. Find a doctor that you vibe with and that you think is understanding, and go from there. The second bit is that, don't ever try to play doctor with the doctor. There's nothing that doctors feel is more demeaning than you being like, oh yeah, I did this thing on TikTok or this BuzzFeed quiz and I think I have ADHD. How do I get tested? Don't, because you don't know if you have ADHD. We're not aware. I am not here to diagnose you. Go to them as someone who is concerned and want to know more and want to learn more.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That actually dovetails into All Red's question, and that's going to be a difficult one. What if you have no long-term doctor? If you never really had a doctor? I've never really had a doctor in my life. I'm going to link
Then
the to Loa link you gave us. Um, but I'll let you go first, Jackie.
mhm. In that case, I would definitely recommend looking at doctor listings. If you have insurance, usually your insurance will have a doctor listing for doctors in your area that take that insurance. And doing a proper background check on each doctor is super, super useful. See if they have, qualities you would want in a doctor. For example, their gender, their orientation, their ethnicity, their background, what they specialize in. All of these things can be a lot like make or break for different people. I know for a fact I feel more comfortable talking with women. I know for a fact if I go talk with a queer woman, is not necessarily that she's going to be good, but I know the likelihood that she'll understand my situation and my like life experiences is much higher than if it was, like a heterosexual woman. So like all this sort of stuff is important. Like do a little bit of vetting, but yeah, look at your like your health insurance, like doctor listings. Look up online. Like legitimately, the amount of research is needed is a little bit much, but once you get it done, it will be is essentially one of those things where like you do a lot of research and it's a one and done, because once you find a doctor that you like, that's how you get a long-term doctor essentially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, around here you have to ask a friend or ask a pharmacist if there's any doctors they know that are accepting patients, says the hellish Flora. Um,
There you go.
yeah,
Yeah.
and Allred, unfortunately, the US is pay to play. Like, um, if you do have insurance, your insurance, it feels like insurance slash client versus doctor privilege.
Yeah.
But, you know,
You don't really get to talk
you,
with the doctor. You talk with
yeah,
the insurance.
yeah, so you have to play the game in the sense of who's in network, who do they accept,
Hmm.
who, or if you don't, then you can go down the route of Medicaid. If you financially, or you don't, if you are of low income, you can get, health care from the government through Medicaid. And with that, you can find providers who will accept Medicaid or your insurance. And then, especially if you're in the workplace, I do recommend talking with your coworkers like, hey, I'm looking for a doctor. Do you guys have anyone that you would recommend? The word of mouth really helps, especially if they're in the same, insurance provider as you. Then you could potentially get somebody that you already know is within network and has a personal recommendation by a coworker or friend. Um, and then go from there. It's a nightmare. I'm not gonna lie, it's an uphill battle. Human Servant, when he moved to a new area, it took him a year to get a provider. And he and I had to go door to door to different doctor's office to being asking, "Hey, are you accepting new patients?" Because he used to call, and no one would call him back. Nobody would call him back. It would just go to voicemail. He'd never get a call back. So then we had to go door to door to different doctor's office, walk in, ask the question, "Are you accepting patients?" No. Strike out. Next doctor office. We literally spent like an hour and a half driving to different doctor's office till we found one that actually was in network and was accepting patients. They had like a 6 month wait list. Unfortunately, he got to be bumped up in the queue because people had some cancellations. But it was a long process, and it's not a good one. We in the US need to fix
Hmm.
this, but it is what it is. You have to play the game, unfortunately. Um,
Yeah, it's the thing I would like to point out is that if you have a bad day finding a doctor, if you have a bad week finding a doctor, if you have a bad month finding a doctor, if you have a bad year finding a doctor, the amount of benefits you get from finding a good doctor to a good therapist to a good psychiatrist are so mind-numbingly positive that it pays off for the bad day, week, month, year you had trying to find a good doctor.
good dividends. Yep.
It really is it really is that like life changing. People would not, you know, uh, ascribe to this if that weren't the case. There wouldn't be colleges and specializing faculties that are all about learning how to treat people and make people feel better, and people like this, incredible industry of people trying to make other people feel better and feel good if there was no validity to it.
Yep. Insurance equals access. Yes, in Canada we might have free healthcare, but there's a chronic doctor shortage. That's everywhere, unfortunately. A lot of doctors don't want to be doctors anymore because it's a sue happy world these days. Allred says, well, one of my former managers did recommend a place, and they did prescribe me some meds, but I failed to keep up with it. Well, maybe they'd be willing to take you back. That's probably something you could
Mm-hmm.
investigate. Um, okay, Pete put, yes, I'm in the UK, but once got refused from my 5 local GP surgery, so I sat in AE for 2 days till I got my meds, insulin. I thought I was going to die, at least in the waiting room of the hospitals. That's the best place. It gets bad. It does. Like, it's not. The medical systems in every country aren't perfect. There's definitely some improvements, but unfortunately, it's on you to fight to get the healthcare you need.
Yeah.
And like Jackie's saying, once you put in the fight, you put in the energy, and you win by getting a provider you like that provides you good service, you've won. It's a boss fight, but
You,
much like gaming,
yeah.
you got to do the gauntlet and the boss fight to overcome it. Um,
If nothing else, I would like to definitely part here with the advice to people that um, I know we want to be coddled. I know we want to be cared. I know we want to be taken care of, especially when you're sick, because when you're sick, that's when you need the most care of. But the reality of um, it is a fight. You are fighting for them to take care of you, which is why I'm telling people like, hey, don't be afraid of being a Karen. Don't be afraid of being annoying. It is your well-being. It is like
mhm.
for your own health, for your safety, for your comfort. It might sound silly, but trust me, getting something like Ritalin is life-changing if you do have ADHD. So like fighting tooth and nail for that, being annoying, being there, being present, making yourself loud and heard is necessary because squeaky wheel gets the oil. So be the squeaky wheel, be as squeaky as you can, like be annoying.
Yep. And Pete, you did the right thing. I know it sucks that you had such a terrible experience, but you're here today, which is important. And, both Jackie and I love you as a chatter. We love having you, and we want to see you again. So please do what you can to take care of yourself.
Hmm.
Um, Same way to get ahead in the company, it seems. Everything's a battle. Everything's a
Yeah,
battle. Everything's a boss fight.
everything's a battle.
Yep. Soon news. You can fight a lot, but when one day your doctor says, well, your healthcare won't pay for that anymore, that will be life changing too. They can't refuse, some treatments or saving your life. Like I've seen it
Yeah,
to where they will they have to provide the care, and yes, they will
you'll
on
be
paper.
in debt.
Yeah, on paper they'll put you
But they will. Yeah.
at a stupid amount of debt. I think Thor had a YouTube short about this. That a lot of times it's a shell game because they will say, "Hey, you can't pay for this, but you need this life-saving, treatment. So we're gonna give it to you.
Yeah.
You're gonna owe over, $100,000, which of course you can't pay. There's a saying in the U.S. that if you owe thousands of dollars, you have a problem. If you owe hundreds of thousands of dollars, they have a problem. So in Thor's
Yeah.
case, the hospital wrote that off, took it as a loss, got to deduct it on their taxes so they didn't have to pay taxes, even though I really question whether whatever they did actually cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like, I always
No,
shake
I
my head.
didn't.
Like, I always shake my head.
I work with a lot of insurances, and
Hmm.
it's that is what we spend the most time
Hmm.
talking about more often than not, or rather arguing, as I argue for my clients, because they will itemize and like put like the weirdest things out in there and hike up the price of so much stuff in order to like really charge the crap out of what a client is owed. And yeah, it's why I'm saying like be annoying, right? Because like if a
Hmm.
doctor comes to you and says like your healthcare won't pay for that, it will. They will. They will. It's more of a matter of the doctor saying like it would take too much effort and too much work on our part to actually get the healthcare to play nice with this.
Hmm.
And it's like if you're annoying enough, if you get in their case enough, they will find a way to make it work. And if they can't find a way to make it work, there's some other person out there that wants to make a buck out of you. Like,
Hmm.
make no mistake, you are a piggy to be drained of all the money. And it's just more of a matter that some people are like, well, that's too much work to make money out of you. But there's other people out there that want to make money out of you. And it's like when it's about your health, when it's about your well-being, you got to play the game. Like you got to play the game. So you find someone who is willing to take your debt. You find someone who's willing to play that. And which is why I'm like, you fight tooth and nail. Like Flora's saying, like, yeah, I always ask for an itemized like receipt because it's like, yeah, you have to fight tooth and nail. You have to like do all this sort of stuff. Not saying that it's like there's gonna be a happy ending to this story. Not all stories have happy endings. Not everything is like simple as that. But you you better be sure that you're putting every ounce of fight you have to the very last end to make sure you're taking the care you deserve and you need. Because you don't want to be at the end of your rope and then learn like, oh, you're telling me I could have just called a different health provider? You know? Like you don't want to be at the end there for that.
Yep. And then Ray Dog says some people need emergency surgery and can't afford it. And you just need to get it. Like, I'll tell a story about the Papa Cat. So this cat does know my Papa Cat, and my Papa Cat needed quintuple bypass surgery on his heart. And he just went for a regular checkup, and they did the stress test, and they're like, "You're gonna die." So they told him to go to the emergency room and just say you have chest pain. Like his actual freaking primary told him just go to the emergency room and tell him you have chest pain, and they'll be forced to do it. I hate that it has to come to that. Like it would be much preferential to be scheduled ahead of time so your family and everybody has time to plan, but it doesn't always work that way. Long story short, if you need life-changing surgery or life-saving surgery, you have to be, like Jackie says, be a Karen. Make it happen, because you're going to get the runaround. Like, it's just a boss fight that you're just going to have to keep fighting. Don't be like me.
Don't be a number. Don't be a statistic.
Yeah, Pete says, don't be like me. I'm scared now to get any help. Yeah, it's a boss fight. Like, you're gamers. This is what you train for. Don't be nice. Exactly. Geofraxer says, an unrelated note, there's a meteor shower tonight. Interesting.
Ooh.
Nice.
Looking it up right now.
I suppose the hospitals here wrote off the bills from what I took when I took an ambulance to there one day from work. Yep. Be a gamer. Hold down W. Yes, keep moving forward. Keep moving forward. Oh, man, incredible discussions we've been having. Incredible.
Yeah.
Let's keep it up, Gatos. I mean, I'll stay here as long as you want, Jackie. Like, I don't know if you have other stuff to do.
Yeah, I can stay for another half, I'd say.
Another half hour. All right, we've got this wonderful licensed professional, Gatos. Let's take advantage of this. Let's take advantage of this. Hydrate. Yes, everybody hydrate if you can. We've got any other questions? Any other questions in chat? Let me ask you a really dark question. What do you think?
Flora keeps making fun of me because I have a little spray for my throat because I'm not used to talking this much anymore. So I bought a little spray. So sometimes they can hear me spraying my throat, and Flora's always like whenever she.
Oh, it's an inside reference. She can hear it. She can hear it. Let me ask you a dark question. What are your thoughts of the predatory psychological practices in video games? And what are some common signs? What are some common signs people can look out for?
I find them to be it's one of those things where like it doesn't surprise me being what they are, but it is disappointing more than anything, I would say, that these predatory practices that they do, exist. Like you were talking about, like, things like battle passes. battle passes is such a daily login bonuses, right? Like daily login bonuses. But I really do think battle passes might be the worst of it, just because of the nature of like get it now, or else you might never get it ever again. That has to be hats off the worst sort of like practice when it comes to like forcing people to feel like they have to spend money now. Um, which is very common as we see in like now every store has that thing where it's just like if you order in the next 3 hours you get 25% off, and it's like it's been 25% off forever and the timer just resets when it reaches zero. So like there's never been like a sale, but it forces people to think like they're doing something like that. um so the best way for you to keep an eye out for that is to essentially treat the games as a customer, like you are a customer, right? And if someone pulled that stuff on me, I'd feel very, very angry. I would feel very, objectified. And it's just like it doesn't matter how cool this skin is. The the sheer notion that like something would be sold to me without without being honest, right? There's like games that definitely get a pass for this, I would say. I feel like games like Deep Rock Galactic, they're very open about like, hey guys, we're selling cosmetics, but it's because we need money. The game is really cheap still, and we need money to keep making the game. So if you guys could purchase this, it'll be cool. That's nice. That's cool. I enjoy when they do that. There's other games that have been like that. Division 2 is another good example. They have battle passes, but all of the battle pass content usually is like once you reach the max level of the battle pass, they unlock all the other battle passes before for you. And they're also like, guys, this game is really old. Is really, really old. Like Ubisoft won't let us keep running this thing unless we make some money. So we gotta have battle passes at least. Because they're still making content for that game, believe it or not. Same with like For Honor and stuff. So like when there's like that honesty about it, I feel like those are usually good signs that a game is like being straightforward with you. I think it's okay for you to be like, okay, at least I know I'm aware as a customer what I'm getting into. But always be aware, like whenever a game is trying to sell you money, sell you something, be aware if the money you're spending in the game is going to be returning the same value as you put into it, and if if the company is treating you well, is treating your money with value. If it's something like The First Descendant, which asks you to put $35 down for a character, maybe not. Maybe that's not cool because $35 is a lot of money for a character. Maybe that's not really super neat, you know? But if it's something like Warframe, where $35 gets you like 6 new characters and 40 new skins and like, a bunch of shit, then maybe that's all right. Maybe that's cool.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's part of the whole games as work concept, which I am never a fan of. Like, having you log in daily to do a daily task and then unlock like a weekly task type of thing. Some gamers like the consistency because it gives them that same achievement of I have a task, I've completed said task, but my takeaway is
Right.
if it's a game, you're supposed to be having fun. Like, if you meet some gamer that's like, well, you have to play for 200-300 hours before you actually can have fun, fuck that. Like, I'm not even gonna sugarcoat it.
Right.
Fuck
right.
that. Like, no. Like,
Yeah.
your time is
I
precious.
have exactly. You don't have enough time to like be spending with stuff like that for sure. It's like it's so rough, which is why I think like a lot of MMOs could do better with making sure that the first moments, which is why, case in point, the reason why I spend myself so much money on Warframe myself is because that game is fun from the get-go. The moment you start playing, you get a bunch of stuff and you're happy and you're having fun. And the money you put in is just like money to be like, hey, I could be having even more fun if I put in $5. Put in $5, you get to unlock 2 new characters who play completely different, who have different skills. You put in $5 more, that's 2 extra characters, and that game has like a huge roster. So those are a few like, again, bang for your buck feels very, very worth your time, right? But then you have certain other games. I think Diablo 4 comes to mind, where like the amount of money you put on the season passes they have is like laughable because you put $40 in. Like, imagine if I'm a new player and I'm playing the game, I'm playing for the campaign, and I look at the battle pass and it's like you put $40 in, and you can't even use anything until you get to the end game. Which, like you said, like, oh, I need like 200 hours in this game before I can even use anything that's available in a battle pass. So like, what's the point even of like doing anything here?
It sounds like the casino. Just $5 more.
Yeah.
Hellish Flora. Yep.
That's how they get you. That's how they get you. But that's the thing with games. I always like take into account like bang for your buck. We talk a lot about Dark Tide because that's a game I really enjoy. But like I have like, I don't know, 1,000 hours in something in Dark Tide, and I paid like $60 for it at a time. So like, you know, if there's a skin I like for $20, I'll buy it. Like I have 1,000 hours in it. You know, like
Yep.
I think they more than well than paid for the amount of like time I spent in it.
Meanwhile, Lainey just booted up once human.
Shame. For shame.
Box says Fallout 76 has a free battle pass and I often get on sale for $8. I've gotten over 1,500 hours out of it. Feels like I got my money's worth. That is true. Some battle passes you do get your money's worth. Other times,
Yeah.
I got 500
I think
hours.
that's the thing. It's like it's money for your time, right? It's like it's buck for your worth of time. So it's like that will scale differently depending on a person. And I think in that case, my answer will be more, I guess, changed to be like, be aware of the worth of your time. You know, it's like we're talking about like the first Descendant. Like a character is like $35, but some characters take like literally weeks to unlock. And it's like, do you think like weeks of your time is worth $35, or do you think they're kind of like taking the piss out of your like free time? You know. Because if it feels like it's the latter, maybe don't put money into this thing. If you think they're really like just being like, yeah, like that.
Alright. I did miss a question by GeoFracture Games, so let's get this question while we still have you. Do you think, or do your therapy skills give you an advantage in PvP games?
A little bit, I think. Depends on the game. I think in fighting games, I think it helps. There's a lot of like the ability to read opponents. I think it's a thing I mentioned before, but I was really, really good at Rainbow Six because I think my therapy background definitely helped me understand what people were thinking and what they were planning to do, like on a moment-to-moment basis. Like if a team is winning really, really hard and having a really, really easy time winning, especially like in Overwatch, I think you see this. If a team is like really mopping the floor with you, you know they're gonna try some goofy stuff. They're not playing their hardest. They're not playing the sweatiest. So in turn, doing something unexpected, something that they might not be aware of, something that they might not even think about, can definitely shift the tides of the game really quickly. Similar with fighting games as well. Like if they're doing like something really, really well and they're just toying with you because you're so good, doing something off kilter might completely throw them off because they're really not expecting like an off meta play or like a completely off the wall kind of play. So like I feel like it helps to that extent. The issue is that my therapy background also made me an older person, so my reflexes are not good, which is why I don't play Rainbow Six anymore. Because even though I have all the brains and the mindset, I just really can't aim. I can't react that well, that fast. So it's an old person's time now.
Yep, the Hellish Flora has the question: does therapy make you better at Overwatch 2?
Yes, because thanks to therapy, I've met people like Flora, and they forced me to play Overwatch. So I think therapy makes me better at Overwatch.
Awesome. I couldn't aim with an aimbot in MP 2024. Hey, you're...
That's a lie. Pete is like a cracked gamer.
He's at a handicap. He's using... I think he's down to one eye, so... has poor vision in one of his eyes. So he's got an arm
so
tied
good at
behind.
video games, though.
That is true. He's a
the
good
world
gamer.
needed to nerf Pete in order for it to be fair.
True. Yeah, I played one-eyed PD. Yep. Alright. Come on. Any other questions from any of the many communities that have raided in today? And also, thank you all for the raid love today. I didn't expect so much raid love today with so many so many different raids from different communities, but it's been helpful because I think it's a good
Mm-hmm.
conversation to expose a lot of gamers to mental health and mental health aspects of, working at getting help, getting medications, being aware that there are things you can do. So, um,
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
all right, give it a let's give them a little bit more time to type up a question. I'll just ask a quick one. Oh, actually, let's say Hellish Flora's question. Very important question. What Brazilian food should everyone try?
Coxinha. Everyone should try coxinha.
Can you type that?
Yes, I can. I'll type it on Twitch so everyone can see. Coxinha. Here we go.
What in the world is that?
It's a popular like Brazilian street food. It has like shredded chicken meat inside, and it's like it has dough around outside, and it's like usually like battered and fried. It's very very
I
nice.
actually talk about food on my
Usually made
channel.
with like cassava flour, which I'm led to believe is not that common in the United States, but it's a very nice type of dough.
Let me shrink this down so we can take a look at this together.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Nice, tasty.
It's like a little fried dumpling looking thing.
Yeah, and it's also like usually over here it's like super cheap unless you go to like a gourmet place, which you shouldn't. They make the worst ones. You should go to like a proper like street food place. And then you can buy like one for like I don't know, like 50 cents. So usually you buy like two of these. And they're like huge.
You can even get them Hawaii looking. Hold on, I gotta get out of the way. Like little
Aw,
chicks.
a little chicken.
Nice, nice. It's
Yeah,
more.
it's more bready than a dumpling. Yes.
Mm,
It's more dough. The chicken part, the shredded chicken inside is actually not a lot of it.
looks similar to an empanada, but empanadas are usually baked. As this is fried, right?
Yeah, this is battered and fried.
Mm, which makes it taste even more delicious. Interesting. All right, let's get to Box's question because I don't want this question to go unanswered. So, let me get my cat back over here. There we go. Box TV says, I started rewarding myself with fruit snacks when I do great in a game. I'm pretty strict with it and I notice a massive improvement. I got 4.5 pounds of fruit snacks and use them as an instant reward at the end of a match. I get almost double
That
my
is a good way.
score pre-fruit snacks, and I can see a very big measurable improvement in stats.
Yeah, that's good. Honestly, people, think about it this way. All of us, we are like no smarter than dogs. We are simple creatures. Our brain and body responds to stimuli in a very, very simple manner. So think about it this way, right? What are kind of the behaviors you're rewarding that you're not even aware of? Do you eat like tasty food when you're sad? So you're sad, so you're like, you know what? I'm gonna eat a bunch of tasty food. Okay, what is that telling your body? That is telling your body that when you're sad, you get tasty food. Is that a good behavior for you to be having? You know? Like, think about all of these other things. It's like, I feel stressed, so I'm gonna have a smoke. Okay, what is that telling your body? When you're stressed, you get a smoke. You are endangering so many behaviors without even being aware of it. So always be mindful. What Box is saying here is like, hey, you can actually have a really cool way to set up like nice behaviors for yourself without putting that much extra work into it, you know?
Yep. You still get your love of fruit snacks. You perform better as a gamer. And it helps you, be happier.
Also, Pete asked me if I prefer Once Human or First Descendant. Once Human all the way, baby. It's my favorite game of all time.
Really?
Don't clip that.
Don't clip that.
It's a lie. It's a Jackie lie.
It's a
I do
jagged
prefer
eye.
it over First Descendant, though. I don't like the character designs on First Descendant.
Yeah, because Pete's tried to get me to play either one, Once Human or First Descendant, and I'm like, they both of them sound
You might.
grindy, and I'm like, I don't like grindy.
Yeah, that is true. I think you might enjoy First Descendant more for the characters' designs than Once Human. I like Once Human because, you know, they're wearing armor and cool
Mhm.
gear. It's very division based. A lot of
Mhm.
pouches. I like that. I think that's cool. First Human is very lingerie coded for the women and very cool armor for the boys, which makes me feel like little.
You wanted to play more games with your chatters? True, Pete. True. I just gotta find the right balance. And it's free to play. Yep.
Isn't
Okay.
hard to try.
Let's wrap it up with 2 questions. So I'll
Sure.
ask, why the bat? What is the bat in your lore that inspired your VTuber?
It is the silliest answer is that I made a cutesy character and then I was like, this works. And then I just started using it because because my website needed a logo. And I looked over my designs and I saw a cutesy little bat design. I was like, this is it. And ever since, I have no cool, deep meaning answer for this one.
This is random chance of cuteness, and now you're a cute bat forever.
Yes.
I remember when I thought Jackie was a pig. Ooh. Interesting.
Yeah, without the wings. It looks very piggy-like.
Geofracture, random question. Do you have a favorite train?
Train? Like train? Oh, I do actually. My town has a very, very loud steam train. We call it Old Steam Mary. That's what
Old
she's
Steam
called.
Mary.
She's very, very loud, and she does tours as a, you know, like keeping like the old like history of the town alive, and you can get inside and see what it was like to ride a steam train. This is very exciting, and it's also very, very loud. So there you go. I didn't realize I even had an answer for that. I usually don't think about trains much, but there you go. Apparently, I do have a favorite train.
Nice, nice. Okay. All right, then the final question is for you. So I have a tradition on my channel. Since the guest gets vulnerable, opens up with all kinds of questions about, them, their history, their community, all about them. I allowed the guest to ask me, Ninja Gato, a specific question. So, what would you like to know about Ninja Gato? You only get one.
I only one.
Yep.
You sit here for like 5 hours asking me questions, and I get one. Okay, that feels unfair somehow.
I might give you an
all
extra.
right,
I might
we'll
give you
see.
an extra if I'm feeling generous.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, my question is what makes you want to talk and learn more about other people?
I'm actually fascinated. Like, I really do like hearing people's stories because I feel like everyone has a unique story.
Mhm.
And everyone's like, oh, I'm
Right.
boring. There's nothing interesting about me, type of thing. And then, like, when you actually sit down and dive in with them and listen to their story, it's like, I went to, again, Human Servant likes to travel and talk to people because he's trying to get over his anxiety and depression and be more sociable. Went to a bar one time and some dude was like, "Oh, I'm not very interesting or whatever." But we were just sitting there talking with him, and then we found out like he's 86 at a bar, absolutely pounding beers Like, we watched him drink almost like a full 12 pack by himself. He's on his third wife, but it wasn't like he was a scoundrel or anything. Like, the first wife, he lost to cancer. The second wife, he lost in a tragic accident. And his third wife is currently, like, his current partner in his love. And it was just like a really interesting story. Like, people don't think they have an
Right.
interesting story, but everybody, I think, has an interesting story. You just have to get to know them. And that's where I feel like Twitch streamers, like, they're willing to talk. Like, they're willing to go out there and put themselves literally online. So it's a very open venue for us to, learn about people. So that was the whole point behind my
Right.
my interview content is I enjoy hearing people's story. Like, I know Pete, yes, he's a one-eyed gamer, but he's still one of the best one-eyed gamers I know. Like, I know Box TV is, a foreigner, an immigrant in the UK during a really tense time. But, he still took time to tell me his story and what he's about. Um, like, we've done interview content with Lainey, and Lainey has incredible backstory and things to talk about. Everybody
Yeah.
in my chat has a story, and you just have to get to know them enough to hear their story. And I like to give them a platform to tell it, because a lot of people don't
Yeah.
think they have it, but they do. And it's always fun to learn about people, I think.
I think it's one of the things I definitely try to really tell my the people that come to my chat that it's very easy to just be like, oh, it's a name on a screen, like it's just a person, it's a plus one in the viewer count or whatever. It's like you have to realize that this is like a whole ass people with whole ass
Hmm.
lives. Like they lived for like decades and have a multitude of life experiences and life stories and a bunch of cool, interesting stuff that happened to them. Which is weird because like a lot of people like for me, a lot of the stuff that I lived through, I would classify as boring because I had to live through every second of it.
Hmm.
Right. When I'm telling people like, hey, like I was, in the Navy
An
and I
engineer,
worked as an interpreter I was
interpreter.
an engineer. And it was just like I'm thinking about like all the time I'm sitting down reading books and like learning stuff, or all the time I'm in the shop cleaning, brooming, like all this, it's boring. It's boring work. But when I'm telling that to other people, I'm telling only the cool parts, which were honestly a day
Hmm.
out of like, 10 years, a week out of 10 years.
Hmm.
So, like, yeah, people have very interesting stories. It's just that unfortunately, they they think of the whole and not of like the cool awesome spikes they had in their life. And having these sorts of interviews is really nice because you get to like kind of like jog their memory and be like, yeah, that was a cool thing.
Yep. Welcome, Promise Mandy. Good to have you. Thank you for your compliment on my
Yeah.
name. I assume Promise Mandy's from your community?
Yeah, Promise Maddie, she's amazing. She also streams.
Nice.
She also
Nice.
streams games, and she's cool. She's awesome. I like Mandy.
Nice. And then Fox TV says, Notters, all people have interesting nugget of gold they can share with you if they're willing to listen. This is a very powerful way to gain wisdom. And then All
Mm.
Red asks me, so what Gato knows about me that would be considered interesting? All Red, you have many experience with working in food and in a high stress kitchen environment. I've already learned that. You've had instances where bad things happened. You've literally got burned and learned from those experiences. You've also let it be known that you have roots in the Church of the Latter-day Saints, which is an interesting experience within itself. Uh, so I do believe that you have an interesting story as well, Allred. And I've learned little bits of
I mean,
tidbits.
is Allred like a line chef or like a line cook
I believe he's in fast food.
in fast food? Yeah. I
Yeah, I
was gonna
think.
say if you work anywhere like making food, uh, you have some of very interesting stories because
Yeah.
everyone that I know that works any kitchen setting have some wild stories about what happened like in their workplaces for sure.
Hmm. or had like crazy customer interactions.
Yeah,
I'm
it's always
proud to
something. It's always something.
I am proud to be a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. There you go. Like, not everybody's willing to type that out on Twitch, so you were a Giga Chad by saying, hey, I don't care. I'm gonna let people know that I am a proud member of the church. I work at Wendy's. Yeah, he's told us that he's seen some crazy stuff with fryers and oil, and he probably has more stories about Karens and crazy customers. So, yep, I snoozed at Hellish Flora, and I'm gonna try to close out and let Jackie go. Her voice is probably given as much as it could give.
I need more sis. Yes, I've been yapping.
And enjoy the rest of your day. But everybody, let's give Jackie a round of applause for an incredible. Let's get the claps and love for an incredible interview.
Yeah, thank you.
I think this was very helpful. So a lot of chatters. There's resources. So I will continue to send you chatters, Jackie, if people want to talk with somebody like you. And I will also take the link that you gave me. It's on my notepad, the twloha.com. Say it for me one more time.
To write love on her arms. Yeah.
To write love on her arms. Yes, that seems to be another toolkit and website that you guys can use. And I will save that and I will share that with my community as a possible resource. And I will do my due diligence and try to find at least one more. So maybe I'll DM you and see if you would recommend what I've found. But everyone, this has been an incredible interview. And actually, Pete, could you share Jackie's form, her Google form, if you have questions that you didn't get in today's chat, or if you want to submit them anonymously because you have some other mental health or even emotional health questions. Jackie has a form. Here's the form. I think this was an incredible opportunity to remind gamers that mental health is important and you have to fight for it. You absolutely do. And it's going to be work, but it will pay incredible dividends, and it's absolutely worth every minute of becoming a Karen. Like, that's what I've learned today. Like, be a Karen.
I was gonna say, if you do use the form, I'll be making sure to answer it next time I go live, which is probably gonna be this Tuesday. 3 p.m. Eastern. But closing words, Gato, thank you so much for having me. Really nice of you. That was a blast.
All right.
And for those of you who are here, listen, world is tough and life is difficult, but I truly, from the bottom of my heart, believe that you guys got a handle on it. Even if it doesn't feel like you have a handle on it, as long as you're making moves and you're doing something, you got a handle on it. Don't be paralyzed. You are stronger than you make it look like you are. There's people in your corner believing in you and ready to support you and help you. And all you need to do is keep moving forward, because I believe in you. Because if you have done nothing all day, if you have done small things today, you've definitely made me really, really happy. And if you can do that, you can do much, much more.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and do the stream ending. Let's say bye to YouTube, everyone. This is going to be an incredible YouTube video. Bye, YouTube. I'm going to link Jackie's socials.
YouTube.
I'm going to link her socials. Make sure you guys go hang out with her. Go join her Twitch chat. I'll even link her Google form. Make sure you go fill that out. If you have a question, join her at her next stream. All right. Love you guys. We'll see you next time.